No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, there we go. That was the Waller. We recorded all the different laughs that we can use in the edit. Brilliant.
There we are. But,
hey, you bunch of sexy fuckers. Welcome to Big Damn Quace, nerdy news, geeky gossip, or something pre-recorded to fill in for the week, because someone's got a busy week.
Something pre-recorded, I think you'll find.
Yeah, that's where we are. We are touching back on, you can see it in the title and the thumbnail, the X-Men series. We're diving right back in. Thanks, Ian, you bastard.
X-Men, the next three.
The next ones. I am Chris. If you didn't have that mouth on you, you'd be the perfect soldier. Johnson.
And I am Matthew Perfection Watson.
Yes, you are, you beautiful boy. Before we kick off, you went to the cinema yesterday.
We finally wrapped ourselves up in protective equipment
suit
and ventured to the cinema.
Did you wear the big condoms from Naked Gun?
I wish.
Cut out little eye holes so you can see the film.
We went to the Printworks View in Manchester to see Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Holy shoot! Thoughts on the experience?
Thoughts on the experience?
Because if you want, you could record a quick review, upload it to the YouTube. I'll do a thumbnail, and we'll put it out there.
I could, but I'm not going to do that.
Fair enough. That either means good things or very bad things.
No, it doesn't. It's not a reflection on the quality of the film. It's just something I'm not going to do. So
he shan't commit because he needs to have a shit.
Yes, and other things as well. So I don't like going out in public right now.
Yeah. Did you drive there? So you were in your own self-contained hazmat vehicle.
We wanted to go to the Lowry one because they have the individual seats, individual recliners, so it's much more spaced out. But the Lowry one wasn't showing Bill and Ted Face the Music, and it wasn't showing anything that I actually want to watch.
Was it a lot of older films?
Sorry,
I was talking through a wall of dairy milk. Was it a lot of older films that they were showing?
There's quite a few reissues, a lot of reissues
sporadic ones.
And Tenet.
Oh,
and that's kind of it.
Hasn't that film killed enough people?
And so the actual in the cinema was really quiet, so there wasn't a lot of opportunity for sort of crowding and such. There was maybe 10, a dozen people in the auditorium, like 5 or 6 groups of 2, just sat in little. But everyone was still sort of not concentrated, but sort of scattered around the middle of the auditorium.
Okay.
So because you can choose your seating, everyone's still gone for like the middle bit, but they're all spaced out.
Yeah.
So that wasn't too bad. Everyone was wearing masks.
I know it sounds weird. If you said to me it's a 200-seater screen, but we're only allowing 20 people in, I would be like, okay, sure, because I know that I'll be able to find space away from everyone.
I feel a lot better about it now, and I'd probably go again, but it wasn't the actual experience of being in the cinema that was problematic. It was getting to it, because having to go through the Printworks and everyone's out ready for a night out because it's Saturday, but I'm like, we're in a pandemic. We're in a pandemic still. What the fuck is everyone doing? And enormous groups of kids, just like wild kids with no masks, who are clearly not all from the same household, just wandering around, being kids. It's very upsetting. But the actual cinema experience itself was fine. It's the cleanest I've ever seen cinema toilets in my entire life.
It's about time.
I know, right?
It's about bloody time. They've got the time to do it now.
But still, people, of the dozen people in that screening, people still left fucking drinks and sweet wrappers on the fucking seats and floor, because of course they did. People
who clearly have never taken the message of Bill and Ted to heart, then.
Yeah.
Because they're not being excellent to each other.
There's still too many fucking ads. And a whole bunch of build-up for the trailers. And there was a single James Bond trailer and that's it. Because there's nothing else coming out. And that's not even coming out anymore.
Yeah. Oh, God.
The film itself is very good. It's warm and sweet and funny and without a shred of cynicism. And just nice and a real emotional salve. And the cast
it's just a bundle of innocence and fun.
Yes, the cast are
all
great.
Which is very much needed.
It's like Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves just stepped right back into those roles. It's very good. It's very good, and I recommend it. But I don't necessarily recommend going out to the cinema to see it. Will I go to the cinema again for any other reason? We'll see. If any of the big blockbusters were still coming out this year, I might be tempted. But because there's nothing else coming out this year, probably not. Like, there's a bunch of reissues and stuff, but I don't think anything that... And it's only $5.
What, just standard price? Or
at the Printworks.
Down a bit?
I don't know. It's just $5 now.
I wonder, a bit pre-pandemic, I wonder how that screen did. Because for those not native to Manchester listening, the Printworks is a sort of a centre where there's a bunch of restaurants and bars, and a four-story, right?
Yeah, four-story.
A four-story cinema that, for the majority of our lives, has been an Odeon.
Yes, I think the last time I went, it was still an Odeon. Because the last time I went was to see Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Same. I don't know if it's the same film, but last time I went there, it was pre the sale. It was full of arcade machines on different floors, and had a Ben and Jerry's counter, a Costa halfway up. A really nice IMAX screen. Like, it was the IMAX screen in Manchester for a long time. I
saw a bunch of movies on the IMAX screen.
Yeah, nearby there was what used to be the Great Northern Rail Centre in Manchester, a railway station back where the GMEX is, like that area. There was an AMC cinema, like one of the two that were in the UK,
and that's now an Odeon.
Yeah, because AMC bought Odeon, and it was great because that was always my favourite to go to once I realised how cheap it was. It was AMC, like it was always cheaper. So I started going there more often, and then Odeon got bought by AMC, and then over time it was either the rental price or the deal they had ended at the Odeon being in the Printworks Centre. I
think it was an anti-competition thing.
It was literally like it was the bidding.
Yeah,
it was bidding, and it was literally like on the Friday the MEN, the Manchester Evening News reported that the Odeon would be leaving the Printworks because View had outbid them on the spot. And then on the Tuesday, Odeon closed. And it was just like, wait, what? What's happening? AMC, of course, saw a sudden boost in customers for like 3 weeks because there was nothing going on at the Printworks. And then the Printworks reopened as a View with changed carpets and changed graphics and marketing.
But not that much.
But the biggest loss was the Costa closed. The Ben and Jerry's counter closed. I don't know if it reopened.
There is the Ben and Jerry's counter there. There is.
So it's
small, but it's there.
And all the arcade machines were taken out.
Yes.
Yeah, every single one, which is weird because we're talking 4 stories, one of which is sort of like a access to some screens, but mostly a holdover floor between floors 2 and 4. So floors 1, 2, and 4 were full of arcade machines, and now it's just these big empty spaces.
Yeah, there's a lot of big empty space in there now. That's all it is.
It's really weird. It's really strange to think that.
It's very strange.
That's it. I have been once while it's been a View. My brother got apology tickets because of a cocked up experience to go and see Endgame. Because there'd been an issue, and he took me. He said, like, I've already seen it in full now already, but like, do you want to come see it with me? I've got 2 apology tickets for the IMAX, and like it's on tomorrow, and I've got a day off. And I went, let's go, because the third and final time I watched Endgame in cinema was on an IMAX screen.
Nice.
And I remember walking through those lobbies, being like, "There's nothing here. No. This is so weird." especially on the second floor, it's just a massive empty cavernous space.
And you combine that
IMAX entrance to the left, toilets dead ahead, and nothing
just
to the right.
Just this big carpet. Just a big carpet.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So what is happening?
But you combine that with a lack of people.
Yeah.
And it's very. And it's also very weird because the print works because everyone's going to the bars and restaurants. It's quite crowded now.
Yeah, for those who want to know, it's like Nando's and
a bunch of like different
Hard Rock,
fancy chain restaurants, and a bunch of like franchise bars and stuff. Like it's a pretty popular night spot, and remains so in the midst of a pandemic because people are stupid. So
it's baffling, so baffling.
So you go in from this like really crowded, like walk through area into this empty cinema, like completely empty almost.
But enough about cinemas.
Yeah,
we have to move on, but also because we had to make an edit there because software crashed.
My computer decided to blue screen mid-sentence, so that was a fucker.
You're back from the cinema. You're alive and well.
Yeah.
You were, and I say this in the pose, excellent to each other.
I was.
And yet, you had to watch some other stuff this week.
Fuck me. I don't know why I agreed to do this.
As part of our ongoing project. Well, we agreed to it because we've had to do some filler episodes, and like long-time fan, lovely Ian, has been following us for donkey's years, and he said quite a lot this year, will you ever tackle the X-Men film franchise? Knowing that you, good sir, are a big fan of X-Men. You love the X-Men. You touch them in all their inappropriate places.
I love the X-Men.
You know exactly how many nipples Nightcrawler has. Yeah. So
the X-Men 17. The X-Men films. Yeah. Not so much.
And where's the hidden 17th one?
Well, riding his butt crack.
Just above where the tail meets his bum crack. It's just tucked away under there.
It's actually a coccyx nipple. So...
But since the Munich Circus equality, incredible coccyx nipple.
Oh, God.
But the films are another story. We've made it clear that we have problems with the movie films. So last time we did one of these episodes a few weeks back, we looked at the original X-Men trilogy, aka the films.
Those ones.
We're now about to leap into the thing that puts me off of these movies outside of Predators directing them. The thing that... Because let's face it, the worst thing these films have done is give Bryan Singer a career and Brett Ratner validation.
Bryan Singer already had a career, as did Brett Ratner. Yeah, but this just allowed them to keep having one. Well, exactly.
This franchise gave him enough of a career that he later on was invited back to make more. So, there we go. X-Men 1, as we said last time, I think we both agreed, yeah, do you know what? It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's pretty all right. It's entertaining. It does its job. It plays it a little too safe, but that's through the lens of modern superhero movies and knowing how far they are willing to actually lean into the comic book stylings and everything nowadays. Yeah. X-Men 2 is a pretty solid action flick with some good performances in it, and probably the best actual script in the series out of the first three. X2 is probably the best written.
Yeah, I'd say so.
In terms of pacing and character motivations and actors like Brian Cox and Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart getting to really wrap their teeth around. It
actually has characters, which is more than more than me getting the others.
And then X3, which is not great, but not as bad as I remember it being. But I think that's because I was aware of what I was getting into when I watched it this time.
It's more boring than anything else.
Yeah, Kelsey Grammer's great.
Yes.
Increased screen time for McKellen is great, but Magneto's character is so freaking all over the shop, so it almost feels like a waste. And by this point, it's very clear the franchise only has eyes for one character. Which leads us into the first film of today's podcast.
X-Men Origins, Storm.
Well, now I was already co-hosting on a radio show, community radio, back in 2007. I was 16. It was 16. Yeah, I was 16 in 2007. What the hell am I talking about? It was toward the end of high school when I first started guesting on a community radio show that talked about film releases. And we were talking about film news, and we got the news through, Total Film, places like that, Fox were looking to do a series of prequel films for the X-Men.
Because they always work out so well.
Yeah. Well, they're called X-Men Origins is the title, and the two that were currently in development were X-Men Origins Wolverine and X-Men Origins Magneto. And the Wolverine one would tell the full story of the Weapon X incident that turned him into the man we now know as the Wolverine. And Magneto's was going to be about post-World War II, late teens, mid to mid-20s Magneto, tracking down Nazis after the Second World War and killing the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Whilst also intercut with a modern-day plotline where McKellen would be playing the role in a plot that tied in with the flashback plot. Which, when I first heard that, I was like, out of these two, that's the one I want to see. I want to see X-Men Origins Magneto. And suffice to say, that movie never happened. A fraction of that film comes into existence, and we'll get to that later. But the main reason these films, including one they were going to do about Storm, and one they were going to do about Nightcrawler, these did not happen because of the critical reaction to X-Men Origins Wolverine, released in 2009. This is the first film to really show you that none of them give a fuck.
No one gives a fuck.
The canon or the story arcs you've seen over the last 3 movies.
Or at least if they did, the people that did give a fuck are no longer involved.
Well, put it this way, the director's Gavin Hood, who, after watching this on Blu-ray, went into the special features and started a big deep dive. Because there was a lot of promotional material around X-Men Origins Wolverine. Do you remember it being on buses for months?
I remember.
Posters on buses for months. It was just Hugh Jackman there in his white vest, and occasionally you'd have the other cast members behind him in a row, the other members of, I guess, Task Force X? Which doesn't make sense, because that's Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
What were they called? Were they given a name in this film?
Team
X. Team X.
Was it Team X?
There it is. Team X, which makes
that's a bad name.
No sense. It makes no sense because X in X-Men comes from Xavier, and this has got fuck all to do with Xavier.
Yeah. Well, they used the Weapon 10 thing later on, Weapon X. But that's later
Roman numeral for 10.
Numeral 10.
Okay. Okay, then.
Oh, Danny Houston's not good in this.
No, he's not. And he's a great actor, but not in this. Gavin Hood talks a lot in the special features about how the scene that really gives it away is he talks about the Weapon X procedure. So the procedure where Wolverine is infused with adamantium because he's the only mutant who could survive the experiment. Why is this experiment a thing they're planning? You find out later. But he talks about the set design of that room and how he says it's not exactly the same as you saw it in X2. It is the same room, but we wanted to play with levels. We like the idea because like Stryker and his team are playing God, so we wanted them to be elevated above the tank that Logan is in. So that's why there's platforms and they're up high looking down. And we wanted to sort of show the kind of the incubation of Wolverine. Like Logan is going in, and the Wolverine is what will be born afterwards. So it's a more tightly packed tank. You have all these giant things sticking into him, holding him in place. He's completely contained in there. And he's talking about like why they made the decisions they made for the design of that room. And you're like, all of these decisions make sense in terms of his, the thematics. Sure, great. But he keeps saying every now and again, and it's not like it was in X2. And that's okay. But he also keeps referring to the fact that it's the same room from X2.
But it's clearly not, yeah.
It's clearly not that room. Like, the tank could be similar at a push, but, like, the adamantium's in a boiling pot behind it, and there's a great thing above it that clearly is what the person's lowered in on.
Yeah.
And it's big, stony, pillars with tiles, and... So that sort of shows you the mentality going in was... Oh, we're telling our story. If it contradicts the previous one, fuck it. Like, ours is what it is now. And it's like, okay, sure. But this is the film that starts the ball rolling on the future ones not giving a single fuck about continuity or character traits. Or, I mean, let's begin with Logan. The opening in this film is kind of cool. With Jimmy, little Jimmy. Waking up and he's always unwell. It's like late 1800s America, and little Jimmy's always unwell, and his friend Victor. All this is loosely based on the story Origin. They sort of like truncate the plot of the middle of that book into 2 minutes, where Jimmy's the kid of a rich family, and his mate's Victor from the village, and his dad don't like him. And then one night, I can't remember what he's called now, but Dog or whatever he's freaking called shows up, and
no, so in the comics, Dog is a different character to Victor.
Yes,
and they sort of get merged together in this.
They confirm that later, don't they? But like, that's he's it's alluding to Sabretooth, but he's not Sabretooth.
Because Dog Logan isn't a mutant.
No, that's true. So basically, guy from village who's a rough bastard, who's Victor's dad, is the real dad of Jimmy. Again, starting that long thing of, they have to be related. It's Jedi shit. Despite to be related. Despite the fact they spent 3 films going, no, anyone could be a mutant. That's the point.
But also,
it's a higher chance that your kid will be a mutant if you're a mutant because your genes are in there too. But
also, despite the fact that the actor that they've cast to play the Elder Howlett looks like Hugh Jackman.
Like the spit of him.
But they're not related. Which, I guess could be a neat bit of misdirection, but it just comes across as odd.
Especially because of how much like him he looks.
Yeah.
So, in his dying moments, the dude reveals that he's Jimmy's dad. And Jimmy springs bone claws, and him and Victor run away, and they're like, come on, little brother, we gotta look out for each other. Yeah. And what suddenly begins is this was the one thing I remember people coming away from this movie, whether they liked it or disliked it, back in 2009, and going, that bit was cool, though.
Yeah.
Which is the opening, where it's the credits as they're going through different wars in American history. Like, they go through the Civil War, World War One, like the American forces in that, World War Two, Vietnam, and you're like, okay, this is cool. Question, why are they fighting for the military? They wouldn't. Like, they wouldn't choose to do that.
It is cool, though.
It's cool, and I buy it, and it probably only exists because, like, we know that Wolverine and Cap fought alongside each other in World War II at some point.
Yeah.
Because obviously that was retconned years later after both characters have been in comics for decades. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, they met once during World War II. And it's like, wait, what? Did they? Yeah. So, I get it, but I'm like, why would they be fighting? And also, why are they fighting with the American forces? These motherfuckers live in Canada.
Yeah.
That's weird. Which... weird. And also, why do they have the exact same haircut for hundreds of years?
See, I have a theory on this.
Oh, go on.
I think that no matter what Logan does to his hair, it always reverts to that weird shape.
But the thing is, this film's the only one where it... You would have loved.
I would have loved for there to be a scene in one of these films where you see him trying to do something different with his hair, and it just goes back to that shape. No matter what he does.
This is the only film where his hair looks good and believable. Because it's just long enough that it gets a natural curl at the back. Whereas in the rest of them, it's like finely coiffed, almost an afro trimmed down like a freaking hedge, slicked back with loads of gel, but in tiny little sort of mama curl points at the back. In this one, it's just big and shaggy and naturally curls toward the back as a result. And it's like, that looks good. That looks good. It's also the first time that Hugh Jackman grows the mutton chops out full and proper, right round into a chin strap beard, and then just trims the chin.
Yeah.
And it sort of looks like that's clearly Wolverine, but it also isn't a hair. It isn't a beard that would make me stop on the train and go, "The fuck has that guy done to his face?" You know what I mean? It's like all the previous ones. It's like, the fuck has he done to his face? And then in this, it's like, yeah, no, I believe that. I believe that as a facial hair choice. Could grow your mustache out a tiny bit, mate, but fair enough. I believe it. They're in Nam and they get imprisoned because Victor essentially tries to rape a woman. Like that's what's happening here. That brothers for life, Jimmy, you and me, we're fighting for our lives together. Except we're also fighting for America for some reason. And now I'm gonna rape someone. It's like, wait, what is happening?
America.
I get the idea you're trying to set up that Victor has the power rush and the animalistic urges, and he's not a good person. But like, you're telling me this is the first time in 100+ years that he's tried to sexually assault somebody?
I think what they're trying to do is make out that Victor gets progressively worse as time goes on because...
Yes, because there is that shot where he's like gunning the guys in the hideout.
Yeah.
and it cuts to Logan's reaction, and he's sort of looking like, Victor? As he's like smiling while he machine guns down people who are already dead.
Yeah, so I think there is an element of him getting worse. And
they're both monsters. They're both animals.
Yeah,
and Victor's the bad guy. Like Logan could go down that route if he let go.
Thematically, yeah, that's thematically the idea. Is that one is that Victor embraces his animalistic side, and Logan tries to hang on to his humanity. But
the two sides of the same coin, Matt. The two sides of the same coin.
Everything in this movie, anything thematic in this movie just gets lost under the mess that it ends up being. Let's fast forward through the plot, because we don't need to... Basically,
I don't need to do the whole thing. They're recruited by William Stryker, who is still a sergeant, and they join Team X, and they do some horrible shit, and Logan goes, yeah, I don't want to have any part of this, and actually goes away and has a life.
They go on one little mission, and Logan gets scared. He says, I'm going to move in with Silver Fox in the Canadian Rockies. Oh,
Canadian wilderness.
Wilderness. So...
the not-so-fresh Prince of Canada.
Yeah.
But it turns out all that's bullshit. We find out later in the movie that life was orchestrated by Stryker, because Stryker's playing a long game. He's after a metal that is apparently indestructible. And I like the idea that this film actually goes... So here's what adamantium is.
Yeah.
Like it's a composite, but the key ingredient is this stuff from a meteor fragment.
It's star metal.
Which is why it's so rare. I love that. They keep saying the same thing. It comes from the sky. And it's like, that's kind of a great idea. It really sort of makes the idea of this thing that we've seen for 3 movies looking more like metal than how it fucking looks in this film. Is like proper sort of like, no wonder Logan is the only one who can survive the treatment. We don't even know what this substance is. It's not something you find on Earth.
No.
So Stryker's long game basically is to create a giant super weapon mutant, powers pulled together, and Logan is sort of the penultimate test trial for it.
Yeah.
Because if Logan can survive the adamantium bonding to his skeleton because of his healing factor, then Weapon 11 will be able to do it using Logan's DNA. But we'll get into that shit. Pluses, positives. I really fucking like Liev Schreiber in this movie.
Yes.
He's Sabretooth.
Yes.
This is Sabretooth. Like, Tyler Mane, great job as henchman Sabretooth. The function is just to be big, scary, have claws, and fight Wolverine in the first X-Men. If that was all we'd ever seen, fans of the character would be upset that was it.
Yeah.
But it's still like, yeah, that's Sabretooth. When he's in the Brotherhood, that's his function. Yeah. Fair enough. He's not Starscream. He's not plotting the demise of Magneto so we can take over. Like, he's just like, yeah, you point me at stuff to kill it for you? Sure. I'll do it. Let's go.
That's Mastermind's role in the Brotherhood.
Yeah. Yes.
Mastermind is the Starscream, so...
Mastermind does some fucked up shit. I totally forgot that isn't he involved, or is it a different mutant is involved in like hypnotizing Jean Grey into being in the Hellfire?
No, it's Mastermind.
Is it Mastermind? Yeah. It's Mastermind. Like, he does some fucked up shit after the Stanley era. Like, they really play with what he can do. Surprised he's never been in the film. Well, I guess he kind of is in the film, sort of, because Silver Fox in this basically has like his powers through touch.
Jason Stryker in X2 is Mastermind. He's basically Mastermind. Because his name in the comics is Jason Wingard.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, because Stryker, since our last podcast, I've reread God Loves Man Kills, and I forgot that William Stryker doesn't even have he has a child, but he doesn't like raise the child. Like, his child, he gets in the comics, Stryker is in the army. He's a religious guy. He's in the army. He gets out. Him and his wife are on a tour of something. The truck blows up, like, they gets hit by something, or there's an accident on the road, and she's pregnant. So they're rushing to get to the hospital. She's pregnant. The car crashes. He gets out. He helps her give birth to the baby, their child, and he basically describes it as like being the most terrifying, horrendous, like, blight on the earth he's ever seen, implying that it's a mutant whose mutation is physically visible from the moment of birth. Yeah. So someone like Nightcrawler and that, who are like from the beginning are blue, and then when they're teenage, their powers like come about. Yeah. So he bludgeons the baby to death, and then as his wife's wondering what's happening and she's crying, he cradles her and snaps her neck. And then he pulls them... happy podcast, everyone. He pulls them into the wreckage of the car, including himself, and he sets fire to the leaking fuel in an attempt to kill himself as well, because he's like, we brought a demon into this world. This is wrong.
A demon!
And after the explosion, he's recovered from the wreckage. He's alive. He's nursed back to health, and he's asking God, "Why am I still alive?" And he realizes, I must be alive because, like, God has shown me what to do. Like, I have to wipe out the mutants. The mutants are Satan's children. I have to get rid of them.
Satan's children.
Do you know what I mean? My child was my that thing that came out of my wife is her fault. And a test for me to go forward. That's his belief system. So in the films, they go, he's just a general and he hates mutants, and it's because his kid's a mutant and he's annoyed about it.
I think you'll find, Christopher,
yeah,
they're the children of the atom, not Satan's children.
Well, I agree, but Stryker doesn't.
I think you'll find
he wanted to pay for less lettering on the posters for his meetups. Children of the Atom was too many letters. So in the X2, Stryker's a military guy who knows how to... He basically uses mutants for his own ends. Ultimately, the plan being to use Xavier and Cerebro to kill all mutants. In this, Stryker's a bit more sympathetic. It looks like in this, he's like... He hates mutants, but he's like, but we can absolutely use them.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to eradicate them. Like, he's still trying to... It looks like he's trying to find a cure for his son, because you see Jason very briefly frozen in like a fridge. And he's like, you know, yeah, we're going to use them, and I'm going to use them to create a weapon to sell to the military, even though he's in the military. And at one point, one of his like superiors is like, yeah, you need to stop doing this. And he's like, right, I'd serve this country to fight any threat to America, including from within. And he kills his superior. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Is that to try and show he's deranged? We know he's deranged. He's locking up children and draining their DNA to use in a weapon. He doesn't have to kill his superior to show the audience that he's deranged. Like, because of course at the end, the post-credit scene, when he gets found after walking till his feet bleed, he gets found by the military who go, Colonel Stryker, and he sort of snaps out of his trance and he's like, yeah. And they're like, you're wanted in connection to the death of, like, Lieutenant whatever. And you're like, yeah, how else did you think it was going to end, Stryker? You fucking idiot. Brian Cox played him in X2, and he was phenomenal. And we see flashes of his face in Wolverine's flashbacks to the Weapon X incident. Because again, Wolverine has no memory from before the time he was experimented on in this canon, and in pretty much the comics for the majority of the time he's been a comic book character. In this film, the whole story of this movie basically is, here's how Wolverine ended up as Weapon X and how he lost his memory. And the film tries to play a trick on you. You can tell that it thinks it's smarter and more clever than it is. And it's really happy with its decision. Victor is killing off members of Team X and kills Logan's wife, Kayla. And Stryker's like, right, I'll help you track down Victor, and I've got this experimental procedure, and you can kill him. Because you know you can't kill... They make a big point of saying, you can't kill Victor. Like, you know you can't kill him. Like, as though it's impossible to do it physically. Even though Wolverine has a great solution, he's like, "Are you going to kill me, little brother?" And he's like, "I'll start by cutting your damn head off." Like,
I guess no one's tried that up until now.
Guess no one's tried that yet. Like, let's go for it.
It's not the kind of thing you do for fun, to be fair.
So he undergoes the procedure, and then as it's finishing, Stryker goes, "Wipe his memory," and you're like, "Wait, what?"
They can do that.
Right, okay, yeah, sure. But Logan hears it from inside the tank. Roars, gets out. We have a not as cool version of the shot from the flashback at X2 where he like comes out of the tank screaming, covered in blood. In here, he just sort of... In here, it's one of those Hugh Jackman doesn't hydrate for 3 days, like sinewy muscle ripped moments.
Sinewy and then he ripped muscle.
And so the film's like, oh, you thought that's how he lost his memory? Well, already we're contradicting things because Stryker in this film looks nothing like he does in the other. Not just because it's a different actor, but like facial hair, military uniform, like there's loads of things that are different. Sabretooth's different because you think this film would take the opportunity to, at the end, maybe give a notion, or even in the film, give a hint that Victor's mutation is continuing to mutate because he lives so long.
Yeah.
You could easily explain why they don't know each other in X-Men, but Victor is also giant, long hair, black eyes, big teeth all the time.
Listen, everyone goes through a grunge phase, okay?
Yeah, but you could explain it by saying like, oh, he's the longer you live, like if you lived a normal life, like your mutation would be what you know it to be, but because you're going to live for hundreds of years potentially, you're mutating into more beast than man, and eventually you won't even. He says like eventually you won't even remember who you are. You'll just like want to kill. That's all you'll want. And just a throwaway line like that would make you go, oh, that's why in X-Men. That's why in X-Men he looks like a freaking werewolf, but also like looks at Wolverine, has a weird obsession with Wolverine's tags, but doesn't quite know why. Because in the original X-Men film, he's only like that because they're going, hey, comic fans, hey, these two enemies, hey,
these two.
Whereas it would retroactively become something more if you knew Sabretooth was going to keep mutating.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, in the first movie, I'm looking at the tags of Logan's, it could be him being like, there's some like instinct, there's something about these. Like, I recognize these somehow, and they move on from that.
There's something there!
Is it wrong that I don't hate the Sacagawean story about the Wolverine, like, pining for the moon and all that? I don't hate that.
No, that's fine.
It's as good a reason as any as to have him call himself Wolverine. Like, fair enough. But it's the fact that it's like, what do you want the tag? I want new name on the tags. What do you want him to say? The Wolverine. Oh, cool. Like how they say Logan in the original film. So yeah, if you've not seen this movie before, don't bother. But like, let's talk about stuff we like in it.
Hugh Jackman.
Stuff we like,
just generally.
Yeah,
I just generally like Hugh Jackman.
Huge jacked man, and his passion. Here's the thing: in all the behind the scenes for these movies, he is so passionate about these characters. He loves them, so much, and it's just a shame that I think his passion and his excitement to play the part sometimes blinds him from quality control.
Well, I don't think it's. I also think it's not really down to him. Like, he's not in control.
Well, he's a producer on most of these movies.
Yeah, but he's not the sole producer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, and I think particularly going into the next X-Men film, not the X-Men film, the next Wolverine film, I think you do get a case of too many cooks. But we'll get to that later on.
Liev Schreiber's amazing. He is never credited as Sabretooth anywhere in the production of this movie.
No. It's always
Victor Creed. Which I quite like, because if you didn't understand that it was the character from the first one, it could just be a different character. And it's like, fine, sure.
But then, therein lies the path to the worst thing about this film. And the worst thing about this set of films we're going to discuss today. Therein lies the path to the complete lack of continuity in this movie that is explicitly supposed to be a prequel to the other movies. Anything else that we like about it before we move on? It's a short list.
I think Danny Houston's a great actor, but he's underserved completely.
I don't know, because I've never seen him in anything that I've liked him in.
I like him in 30 Days a Night, but that's just because he feels very otherworldly in that.
Oh, actually, I totally forgot he was in that.
He feels like a proper monster.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, this is not a human.
I'll take that back. Back. He's good in 30 Days a Night.
Yeah. Do you know what? Let's go through Team X and decide who's good and who's shit. Will.i.am makes his acting debut as John Wraith.
No thanks.
I like the way Wraith teleports. Like, I like the fact for that split second you see his body deconstruct.
Yeah.
So, like, when he reappears, you see a skeleton, then, like, the organs, then the flesh, then skin, then he's there. And it's really quick, and it's like, that's neat. You found a way to do teleportation that looks different from the last time we saw it. That's good. It's a performance. It's nothing special.
Yeah, there's nothing... Yeah, it's fine.
Lynn Collins is Kayla, a.k.a. Silver Fox. She's not Silver Fox, so I don't know why they'd called her Silver Fox, because she frickin' isn't Silver Fox.
She's fine.
Did you know that Michelle Monaghan turned down that role because of scheduling conflicts?
Oh, that could be good.
I believe her that she genuinely was in love with Logan, because the idea is they've paired her up with Logan because her power is tactile hypnosis. Like if she touches you and suggests something, you do it. As we see earlier in the film, there's a guy who's going to fight Logan over like a traffic dispute.
Yeah,
and she like touches his shoulder and is like, just calm down, like don't, move on or whatever. And he's like, okay, fine.
But you need to trust you to have a good memory, because he gets killed off shortly thereafter, and then it doesn't come up until like an hour later.
Yeah, but then there's a throwaway line where Victor's choking her, and she's like, "Get off me!" And he's like, "It doesn't work on me." And it's sort of the one bit of proof the movie offers that maybe it didn't work on Logan either, because it's a healing thing or whatever. Like who freaking knows? So I think the way Lynn Collins plays it is nice, but it's just a. Kevin.
It's most of these roles are not due to the actors. It's due to the parts just being. The script is pretty bad.
Kevin Durand clearly is having fun playing Fred Dukes, aka Blob. It's two prosthetic muscle suits. ADI worked on this. I love them. Amalgamated Dynamics Incorporated. Effect House. We've been working for years. They're wonderful, but this is at the start of the turn of the business, because nowadays they are a digital effects house first, and a physical prosthetic effects house second, because unfortunately the demand for CGI is higher now, which sucks, because these guys do some incredible, like Pumpkinhead, Alien and Predator franchises prior to the two most recent entries, they do phenomenal work. Pennywise, they designed Pennywise for the first It film. Like they're phenomenal. This is one of the first movies where their job was primarily CGI effects. It shows Logan's claws look fucking awful in this movie.
Oh, why do they need to be CGI? Why do they need to be CGI in this when they've been practical and everything else?
They look like they're the second to last layer before the final details.
Yeah.
They look so bad.
This leaked.
But then their practical effects look really good, because the two suits for Blob look phenomenal. They look really, really good. I hate the idea. Oh, David Harbour auditioned for this role, apparently.
Yeah, I can believe that.
But was turned down for being, quote, too fat at the time, unquote.
Yeah.
What the hell? But I hate the fact that Blob isn't big already. Like, his power in this is basically just he's indestructible. Like, that's his power.
The thing. It is part of his mutation that he is just enormous. But his actual power is, he can increase his mass. And basically become immovable. That's his actual powers.
Whereas in this, he's immovable and super strong, and then gets fat because he keeps eating. It's like, okay. And the blob bub thing is fucking painful. That
is awful. It's awful. It just doesn't work at all.
Sorry, so you were saying about the leaked.
This movie leaked.
This was one of the first high-profile leaks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, the internet suddenly got hold of it before it came out in cinemas.
The whole thing leaked online with quote-unquote unfinished effects. And then
they definitely were unfinished in there, because it had the straps across the screen and everything, and
there was no
storyboards filling in for a couple of the vehicle stunts.
There was no watermark. It had unfinished alternate visual effects, and it had a different font for the credits. But by all accounts...
Oh, right. Yeah, no, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
But the effects weren't actually that different. So it's not like it wasn't like completely... They really didn't look that much better in the final result. It's
we love
just
ADI,
a mess.
but it's not the
good
style for visuals.
It's not good.
But when it comes to the practical stuff is tasty.
But
Dominic Monaghan as sorry, go on.
Dominic Monaghan, yes.
As Bradley.
Yes.
Chris Bradley. Who I was like, which character is this? Then I looked him up. Yeah, he's literally just called Chris Bradley.
Yeah.
He's previously gone under Bolt and Maverick, whose superpower is basically technokinesis.
Yeah.
It's a really brief role. He's very sweet and endearing in it. It makes sense that he'd be on a military task force because he can short out communications and like when the lift gets turned off to stop them going to the crime boss's floor, of course, he just like concentrates and the lift starts moving again. his job as a sideshow attraction with a caravan full of toys is really kind of sweet. Like, it's one of those where it's like, out of the back of the film, he's one of the few characters that I'm like, I wish I'd actually spent more time with.
Yeah.
It's like, he's sweet, but I think that's just Dominic Monaghan's natural kind of chemistry and charisma.
Yeah, probably.
But then you wouldn't have a pint with Dominic Monaghan. You'd have second breakfast.
Yes. Which is what you call Guinness when you drink it before 12.
Yeah. Taylor, I'm gonna go in order of the cast list I've got here because it will become clear why. He's not a member of Team X, but Taylor Kitsch, in his rise to Sam Worthington part of his career, i.e. was being put in everything for a couple of years, plays Remy LeBeau, but he was so good at poker that the guards at the prison called him Gambit.
Taylor Kitsch is fine, but
he plays it fine.
Shit.
He loses his accent. He's got a Cajun accent when you first meet him, and then later on he's just more flat American.
Again, all the films that we're talking about, well, particularly the next film we're going to talk about, there's some accents that go missing all over the place. So he's the least worst offender in this.
Wunderbar.
Fuck it up.
Yeah, but Gambit, fan favourite character, massively fan favourite X-Men character. It's a cameo, really. I mean, he's in a few scenes, but it's an extended cameo, and it works as an extended cameo, but it's almost damaged more now where we're in a world where we've had Batroc the Leaper, we've had Arnim Zola, we've had freaking Lockjaw in a big budget TV series. Like, it just kind of feels weird.
But even before
that Gambit is a throwaway role who's toned down massively to just being, oh well, he's got a purple shirt. That's kind of like his armor in the comics.
But even before all this, like, it's even like not comparing it to modern films where they're more willing to dip into obscure characters. The problem is the script is just so. It's such a cobble together of bits and pieces and ideas and characters.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sort of
There's
flow
no need for it to be Gambit. There's no need for it to be Gambit.
But it just means that you get these little snippets of characters that don't get to be characters because they're just bringing in, all right, we're going to have Scott Summers in here now for no reason apart from the fact that we need Weapon 11 at the end to have the I-beams. And also, I guess this might be Emma Frost, but it's not really Emma Frost. And I guess also
Kayla's sister Emma.
Yeah.
In the development of the film, there was no one was saying it's Emma Frost, and then in the credits, they renamed the character Emma. No, they renamed the Kayla's sister / Emma Silverfox. So it's Emma Frost.
Yeah,
it is Emma Frost.
Again, which we'll pick up again in a few minutes, and it just so you just get this. Oh, it's this character here, and this character there, and this character here, and we're doing this bit now, and then this bit. Oh, and this character's back again for 5 seconds, and we're doing this bit. Oh no, this character's dead now, and it moves in such a sort of haphazard fashion through this overly complex plot that doesn't really do anything. And it doesn't even manage to look good while it's doing it. It
really doesn't.
It's just a mess.
But Matt, we have to learn the origin of Wolverine's coat.
Yeah,
he gets it off of Ma and Pa Kent.
Ma and Pa Logan.
He gets it off of them. His famous jacket with the Go Faster stripes on the arms that before the end of this movie is in the middle of a freaking street or base somewhere, never to be seen again, and yet somehow he's wearing it in X-Men. And apparently it's his famous jacket. So much so that the recent Marvel Legends figures, because they're finally using the X-Men license to make a few Marvel Legends figures, include a Wolverine with that jacket.
Hey,
because apparently it's visual iconography. Yeah, but it's not the same fucking jacket that he's wearing in the other movies. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Oh god, it's a nice coat. Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's a homeless person. Daniel Henny as Agent Zero. He's fine. He feels like a formidable threat.
But again, has an action scene and a bit of threatening dialogue and nothing else because there's too many characters in this movie and they don't know what to do with any of them.
If it was just him. If it was like Victor, Wolverine and him on that task force, I'd be like, that makes sense. 2 up-close brawlers who have a healing factor and your marksman. Now, here's the thing. They never say what his power is. They never show his power. You just kind of have to interpret that, oh, he's a good shot.
Yeah.
Like, that's his power. He can shoot fast. And he's not the worst off for that. We'll get to him next. But, like, here's something interesting. On the commentary on the DVD, producer Lauren Schuller-Donner, who I saw in a lot of the behind-the-scenes featurettes, she kind of takes over as the figurehead for this series and all the behind-the-scenes stuff for this film.
Yeah.
She seems to be very much on the same page as, like, your Amy Pascal's, your Simon Kinberg's, like, gets the appeal of the world, but doesn't quite understand why the things have appeal.
And I think that's sort of indicative of the way that the franchise is approached by everyone.
Yeah, these producers, like Avi Arad and stuff, people like that, they're like, oh my god, yeah, I love those characters. I have a lunchbox with them on. Oh, cool. What's your favourite story? Well, you know, I just love these characters. I think they're really cool.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see other people love them. Cool. What's your favourite story? Oh, I just, you know, all these great villains and characters. What's your favourite fucking story with these characters in? Tell me something about why you love them that proves you understand the core of their appeal.
Not just
why people pick up these books, not just because... Basically, they are fans of the aesthetic alone, and that's kind of it.
Pretty much.
That's kind of it. And she proves it by, on the commentary, she talks about Agent Zero's powers. She says that he has an enhanced agility and reflexes and lethal sniper skills, because, of course, you could be born with sniper skills. But also, he has no scent, which makes him difficult for Logan to track. That is never brought up
or
ever.
used or utilised. Like, he doesn't need to track him at any point ever. So
what is the point in that? But he's not done the dirtiest. And I'm not talking about weird cameo, extra de-age, look worse than last time Xavier. I'm talking about Ryan motherfucking Patience of a Saint Reynolds playing Wade Wilson / Weapon 11.
It's bad, man.
Wade's part of the team. His superpowers include moving swords fast, and that's hit. Wade Wilson, his superpower is moving swords fast and liking swords.
Yeah.
That's his superpower.
And talking a lot.
The thing is, in the opening sting after the credits, he's the most endearing member of the team. Because his lines are well written, you can tell some of them are improv. Ryan Reynolds has that brilliant snarky charisma. He's downplaying it, and it feels like he's trying to behave himself. Like the bit in the lift and everything is really funny. And then he comes out and he deflects 4,000 fucking machine gun bullets with his swords, and it's the most disgustingly stupid thing you've ever seen, and not in a fun way. And it's just dumb as fuck.
And it's wonderfully really parodied in
Deadpool 2.
In Deadpool 2.
Yeah, brilliantly done. And then Wade is implied to be the first killed by Victor. And the later on we find out he was never killed by Victor. He is the basis for Weapon 11. So before they experiment on Wolverine, they've already selected Wade to be Weapon 11. He's been frozen, comatose, whatever, but his skin is fucked up. They have recently put the adamantium into him after the success with Wolverine. He has katana blades in his arms that would not fit in his arms because he wouldn't be able to bend his fucking arms.
He's a soldier who doesn't need to bend his arms.
Yeah, which could easily be solved. It could easily be solved if they were just 6-7 inches long. And you'd still be like, yeah, those are blades. I could still be hurt by those blades. And he could fit them in his forearms. It doesn't make any friggin' sense. He's had his mouth welded shut during the process. The way he behaves implies brainwashing or memory erasure because he's clearly not Wade anymore. So shutting his mouth doesn't make any sense. Because then if he's out in the field, how the hell do you find out if he's in trouble or if he needs cover or whatever? You couldn't communicate with them to let them know. Mm-hmm. But they do it because Stryker's only problem with Wade was that he had a mouth on him. In the promo materials attached to it, Ryan Reynolds, there's a lot of these promo stings where each of the cast members talk to camera in character. and I remember it was in the press kit around the time. And he does it, and they keep referring to him as the Merc with a mouth, Deadpool's moniker.
He seems to neither be a mercenary or have a mouth.
Have a mouth. So... He has burn marks on his face, scars that imply that his eyes were taken out and put back in.
Yeah, well, we find out they were
Cyclops' optic blasts, which once again don't operate correctly. They set things on fire and melt things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Cyclops' power is that it punches shit. It's a laser beam that pummels you into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Cyclops shot you with his eyes, folks, you wouldn't set on fire or burn up. You'd fly across a fucking football field. Like, that's what the power is.
Yeah,
and when Cyclops uses it in this,
create heat. They're a portal to the punch dimension.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, they are. Because they seem to get Gambit's kinetic stuff right in this. It's about like energy manipulation and explosions of energy and force, and it works. And like attaching it to objects and throwing it. For some reason, he can also make cards float. But sure, it's just about a visual flourish. But it's Deadpool, the I-beams, and Cyclops, the I-beams. This is fucking stupid. But hey, Matt, when his I-beams are about to set off, the scars up and above his and below his eyes burn, and they kind of look like Deadpool's mask. Yeah. Don't you love that, fans of this character?
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much.
The special, I mean, to be fair, he's got one up on the Deadpool. He teleports, which Deadpool in the comics did for years with a little device on his belt.
Yeah, that's not an inherent power of Deadpool.
But that's the thing, Deadpool's power in the comics... Deadpool isn't a mutant in the comics.
No, he's given a healing factor, yeah.
He's given a healing factor based on Wolverine's, whereas in this, he's given a skeleton and a healing factor, and I-beams, and katana blades, and teleportation, and something else probably we don't know.
And also the most stupid character name drop I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, we put it in the pool. The Deadpool. You're like...
It's... What?
What?
That's not what a Deadpool is!
In the special features, they really go off on the fact that, like, he's a fan favourite Marvel character. People love him, and we can't wait for them to get to see him in this movie. And you're like, you guys really have no idea what you've...
They don't. They really don't
no clue.
Know what they don't know what is good about what they're trying to use. They don't know why people like it.
I don't know how much of that final part of the film stars Ryan Reynolds. I think maybe a couple of close-ups of the eyes are Ryan Reynolds, because Weapon 11 is performed by stunt performer Scott Adkins.
Yeah.
And physically, it's a great job. Like, I watched the behind the scenes, the flips and kicks he's doing without a wire. Like, he can, like, propel himself across a room and cartwheel, like, 5 times. It's like, this guy's a phenomenal performer. It's a shame that he's been attached to this piece of shit.
Yeah.
I was a Deadpool fan at the time, and I was just like, the fuck are they doing? Like, why? Who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah.
And it's very indicative of the whole film, really. It's like they don't know what they're doing.
It might all
don't worry.
It might all be Scott Adkins, because facially, he's quite similar to Ryan Reynolds. Especially around the eyes. So,
because all it would take is a bit of, again, like the ADI prosthetics work on the design is good. It's just not Deadpool. They could have just done the grooves around his eyes and on his cheeks to make him look a bit more like Ryan, using a cast and then like blowing it up slightly, or it's possible. The film ends in a way I think we all wish we could have experienced, which is an adamantium bullet to Wolverine's brain makes him forget things.
Well, no, he doesn't.
Specifically,
Does it penetrate?
I don't know if it penetrates,
or
but
is
it definitely
just,
like
it rattles his head. It rattles his brain around in there.
No, I think it penetrates because the wound takes a bit longer to heal.
Oh yeah,
and it's sort of like you can see it's not skull directly beneath the wound as it's healing over. It's not the metal surface. It's sort of like flesh.
Yeah.
So I think it penetrates his head. So basically, it's the Simpsons where we learn there's a crayon in Homer's brain and they take it out and he gets smarter. It's basically that. It's like, what the fuck? But it's not just that. It's not the fact that that's just what happens as like a twist ending. Stryker has adamantium bullets, which he explicitly is using to erase Logan's memory.
Yeah.
the doctor who's created the adamantium, she pops up in it a couple times and she really goes for it. She's a really bit part, but she's really going for the idea of like, this is not, you can tell without ever saying it, this is not why I got into science.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is happening? She's like, those won't kill him. And he says, don't have to kill him. Just want to take away his memory or whatever it is.
No, it's like, I think she's like, oh yeah, if you shoot him, he'll just regenerate. And he's like, oh yeah, but his memories won't.
His memories won't. You're like, wait, your plan is to shoot him in the head and make him forget things.
Great plan.
Bullshit. But of course, he forgets things and he runs away. And this movie's shit. And it had several post-credit sequences on release in cinemas. Different cinemas got different credit sequences. The two most prominent ones are when Stryker is stopped from his never-ending walk.
Yeah.
To be questioned about the death of General Munson. And the other one is in the rubble, the hand of the Deadpool, the blade goes back into it, it reaches forward, his face is there, the mouth has been cut open, its eyes open, this decapitated head's eyes open, and it goes, shh, and then it fades to black. So they were obviously like, people love Deadpool, let's set up the idea of a Deadpool movie. I don't think anyone wanted to see a Deadpool movie featuring this Deadpool.
No. So
I'm glad that never happened. But hey, Ryan Reynolds' love affair with the character continued, and it eventually led to good things. I fucking hate this movie.
It's really bad. There's nothing.
It perpetuates the myth that there is something to pursue in origin stories when sometimes lack of them is better.
Yeah.
Like, show don't tell.
How long was Wolverine a compelling character for in the comics without an origin story?
So freaking long.
Yeah.
Which is why it was so amazing that in like the early 2000s we got Origin, which they never said, oh, this is definitively his childhood story.
No.
They were like, this is just our take on it. Like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then at the end of House of M, that wonderful fucking moment where Wanda restores the universe back to how it is, removes a lot of mutants, though. Some remain, and Logan wakes up in that field and just goes, I remember.
Yep.
And then it ends, and you're like, what does he remember? What does he fucking... What? And then the next time it's touched on, a few issues like of X-Men later, it's like, I know where I came from.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, shit! Like, it was big. Whereas in this, it's like, it would have been better if we had never found out. Another thing that would have been better if I'd never found out certain things about it is our next movie.
I just want to say before
hit me.
We move on. One of the script writers on this was David Benioff, who, of course, along with D.B. Weiss, infamously dropped the ball with the end of Game of Thrones.
Fucking hell.
Screenwriters are David Benioff and Skip Woods. Oh, Skip Woods hasn't done much better.
Go on. Go on.
Hitman Agent 47. A Good Day to Die Hard. The 18? Oh. That's decent.
Well, the Liam Neeson version.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's big, dumb fun. Yeah.
Worked with Hugh Jackman previously on Swordfish.
Oh.
Sabotage, directed by David Ayer. So, no good. But Benioff, fucking hell, man.
And the story by 70 different people. Well, the next screenplay was written by Ashley Edward Miller and Zach Stentz. But then Matthew Vaughn was brought on as director, having not done X-Men 3, which we talked about last time. And when he did, he came on and did some rewrites alongside his writing partner after Stardust, Jane Goldman.
Do you know what the turnaround was from hiring the writers to release?
On First Class?
Yeah.
Go on.
13 months.
Shut the fuck up. No. 13 months to make First Class in its entirety.
13 months, yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest.
It's amazing it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah, that makes me that makes me admire the film more as a result, because it does not feel like a rush job.
But I have to say, on rewatching it, I like it a lot less than I did. Because my opinion's never really
shifted. Yeah, my opinion's never really shifted on this. To me, this is, if we're not counting the Wolverine spin-offs and the Deadpool spin-offs, to me, this is the joint best film in the franchise with X2. It's a solid, 6 out of 10 for me. Like a solid 6 out of 10. It has big issues, but it does a lot more that I enjoy. And but we'll get into it. X-Men First Class, so the Origins series are scrapped, and the franchise is sort of halted briefly behind the scenes, and it turns out for at least 2 years, nearly 2 years, they do fuck all before going, quick, origin story.
Yep.
And then slight rewrites on the origin story when the director's on board. And they produce X-Men First Class, which First Class is usually referring to a book or different story arcs based around going back to the beginning of the X-Men and the original team from the original run. This, of course, means that you're either going to go back to the early 90s of the timeline and talk about early days of Scott and stuff, or you go way, way back to the beginnings of Xavier's Institute. And that's what this is. We saw this together in Hammersmith.
We totally did.
2011.
We totally did.
I think it was the first time I went to that cinema. Because you took me there to see this and Thor.
We saw all sorts of shit there.
And Captain America the First Avenger.
Yeah.
And the Green Hornet, which I fell asleep for the last half hour of.
You didn't miss much.
I know. Shit. But
I don't hate the Green Hornet, but it's not great.
I hate it. This is pretty fucking awful, especially knowing the other screenplays that were out there, and that was the one they went with. It's fuck right off. But I remember enjoying this at the time, and then I remember getting it digitally later in the year and watching it again and going, huh. But since I've kind of plateaued out at 6 out of 10. Long story short, a mutant terrorist called Sebastian Shaw is going to fuck with the beginnings of what eventually is the Cold War. The Cuban Missile Crisis.
He's basically going to use the Cuban Missile Crisis to kickstart a nuclear war which will wipe out humanity and leave humans as the dominant species because of reasons.
And possibly trigger more mutations, because this is the first film. This is the first film to actually insinuate that the increased use of nuclear technology on the planet and radiation is the thing that has led to mutations increasing.
Yeah, children of the atom.
This is the first film. Yeah, this is the first film to suggest that mutants always exist, but they're normally 1 in every 5 million people.
Yeah,
and now we're 1 in every million because of your increased use of radiation.
Going back to the original comics, it's it is explicit even in the original comics that Xavier was born a mutant as powerful as he is because of his parents' exposure to radiation, working as nuclear scientists.
Yeah, because Marvel was always your science boys. That was always their thing. Science was part of everyone's power set. And even when Stan Lee admits in the special features for Origins that the reason they made the X-Men they're born that way is because he and Jack Kirby were actually struggling to come up with new origins. Yeah. But they wanted to do a superhero team about a school of superheroes. And they went, they're born that way. Sod it. And he said it proved to be the best and worst choice they ever made, because if they couldn't be asked going forward with a character in any book, they'd be like, they're a mutant. Sod it. They were born with those powers.
They're a mutant.
But then sometimes they'd be like, oh, great, we've run out of interesting ways to come up with origin. They had to force themselves to create more origins going forward for characters, so as they didn't just rely on this get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
There's a great special feature on Origins with it was Lee Wein and Len Wein and Stan Lee talking about the creation of the X-Men and the eventual creation of Wolverine and everything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, A, I could watch 3 hours of these two just bantering with each other.
Yeah.
B, I fucking miss Stan Lee. Oh my God.
I think Len Wein has also passed away since as well, hasn't he?
Not too long ago, yeah. But just that ball of positivity, self-deprecating, but also fake egotistical. And even in this special feature that would have been recorded in 2008, 2009, he's massively on the train of, this is Jack's baby. Jack created these things. I just put words in their mouths and gave him some ideas.
Yeah, Len Wein passed away in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. I know obviously there's slightly bigger priorities that he would have had in his life, but I hope he got to see Logan. Because holy shit.
One can hope.
Do you know what I mean? Your creation is in this fucking masterpiece, which we'll get to in 7 specials time.
Yeah.
So X-Men First Class is Sebastian Shaw's taking advantage of the Cuban Missile Crisis to try and wipe out a bunch of humanity, and the only thing that can stop him are a recently graduated Oxford professor of sciences and mutation, Charles Xavier, and his adopted sister Raven, a CIA agent called Moira McTaggart, who is investigating the case, another character who I was like, the guy who helps them, who runs his facility, I was like, what is the name of this character? What is he called? And apparently, let me find this. He is called, and I shit you not, I wish I was making this up. His name is... I can't find it on this list. His name is the Man in Black. He doesn't have a name. Even though he's one of the more prominent characters in the movie. That's it. Man in Black suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Head of Division X, because it's called X for some reason.
Because it always has to be X.
Yeah, and it's a shame because Oliver Platt, who plays him, like has some really nice beats in there.
I fucking love Oliver Platt, but
yeah,
him and that whole sort of plot thread literally get dropped about halfway through the movie.
He's a function so that they have a base to play with.
I think it's got the
and then they fuck off from the base anyway and go back to Xavier's childhood home.
I think it is literally a whole chunk of the movie that serves no purpose other than to make the movie longer.
Yeah,
like
and then even aside from that, the extra subplot of a movie that they absorbed from its pre-production stage.
Yeah, they swear that they didn't use any of that script, but I refuse to believe it.
Bullshit, because the best scene in the movie is the pace, the writing, the performance, the execution, and the action of it is hands down something that has had a lot of thought put into it.
Yeah. It's
definitely been nicked from it, because the other main character is former concentration camp victim Eric Lenscher, who is slowly making his way through Europe, killing former Nazis on the trail of Mr. Schmidt, aka Sebastian Shaw. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Sebastian Shaw's a mutant, an ageless mutant who absorbs energy and is played fucking wonderfully by Kevin Bacon.
Oh, he is having so much fun. Especially
X-Men fans rejoice. The Hellfire Club of the villains.
Especially in that early scene where he's the concentration camp doctor, and it's all in German.
His name is something Schmidt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where is it? I'm trying to find it. I want to get it right. Oh my god, where is he on the credits? Like, what the hell?
I think he's just credited as Sebastian Shaw.
I'm sure that... I just want to find... Oh, Dr. Klaus Schmidt.
Schmidt, yes.
Because I thought the Schmidt might be a subtle nod to... unless it's a name they've used elsewhere, a subtle nod to Red Skull, because obviously Johann Schmidt.
Probably.
I thought maybe it was a nod to him.
You know, he's doing it all. It's all in German, but he's clearly having so much fun just being unrepentantly evil.
The Magneto stuff up to the third act is the best thing about this movie.
Honestly, I fucking wish that this movie had just been Magneto,
X-Men Origins Magneto,
hunting down
Sebastian Shaw,
hunting down Nazis,
and
then coming into contact with Xavier, who sort of tries to steer him onto the path of righteousness, but ultimately fails.
Yeah,
and that is kind of the core of the film. But, like X-Men Origins Wolverine, it gets bogged down with too many characters and too many subplots and too much trying to do other stuff. It's like... So, you get the titular First Class, the sort of young group of X-Men they get together. And there's some...
The CIA recruited team. Yeah, led by Xavier and Lenscher and McTaggart.
Well, first of all, you get Mystique, who now, it is revealed, has been Xavier's friend since childhood.
Yeah. Basically, flat out since Charles was 13, and she was, judging by her mutant ability, either she's started de-aging, so she's 12, 13 herself.
Yeah.
Well, younger than that. The performer is tiny. Yeah. So either she's younger and has just started mutating, or because this is the film that finally confirms that Mystique ages very slowly, she could have been 40.
Yeah.
For all we fucking know.
She acts like a 10-year-old. So.
Yeah.
And continues to do so even when she's played by Jennifer Lawrence. He was wax like a child.
In her only invested performance as this character.
And even then, it's not that good. Because I just don't think any of the Mystique stuff is interesting.
No. If it was a different mutant, fair enough.
Yeah. But then as soon as...
Somebody who could personify the break in between Xavier and Eric's ideologies, who we only have in this film, and maybe they lose them at the end, and that's the inciting incident that makes them both go, no, this is my path.
Yeah.
Like, you could have had that. Now, the interplay with Mystique and Eric is interesting, because you get to sort of... This film is the first one to openly acknowledge that Charles is a dick.
Yes.
Like,
which I'm all about.
I'm all for that, but only if, like, you do something with that. X-Men 3 rushes through it. They rush through the idea that, like, oh, he just shortcutted the Phoenix personality and gene by locking it away. But it's within like a 10-minute span of that and him dying that you don't really give a shit. You don't really lean into it very much. Whereas this film is like, yeah, he's a bit of a dick. And I get that because, yeah, people are a bit of a dick when they're younger. And as they get older, they become more aware, for the most part, more aware and more considerate about the people in the world around them. Which could have led to, wise head teacher Xavier of the X-Men that we all have in our head. Like, this is him growing older and getting that thing. But, like, by the end of it, you're like, of course Raven doesn't want to stay round and be his kid sister anymore. Of course she doesn't. Yeah. He never pays attention to her and actually, like, he sympathizes with her, but he clearly doesn't realize why she's upset because he doesn't ever have to hide. But then by the end, she's like, I shouldn't have to hide, which doesn't necessarily mean, and I'm now going to join that scary man.
But, like, again, you get the tease of this relationship with Beast as another mutant who is also...
In the film is played quite nicely, I think, in the film.
But the problem is that Beast is also a mutant that's uncomfortable about his appearance. It's only his feet, but he still has a problem with it, which is understandable. He has to hide his feet. But...
Hey, people got a fetish.
I know, right?
And he feels self-conscious.
But the thing is, if it had been their relationship that had sort of helped her accept herself, that's character work. It isn't. It's fucking Magneto saying one thing to her, and then all of a sudden she's fine.
And then they fuck one night, and it's
like, what? Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, that's the thing that happens, I guess.
And it just kind of throws out the sort of empowerment and agency of that character.
But
just
here's the odd part, because I know this is a big bugbear of Keeks' as well. We're talking about this on stream, weren't we? She was saying that, like, the idea of the Xavier and Mystique relationship being revealed as a thing that is then retroactively damages the previous movies, because it's like, is he not going to acknowledge that he knows her? Is she not going to be slightly hesitant, like harming his friends?
And the more prequels they make and the more changes they make, the worse that problem gets as you go along.
Now, in the behind the scenes for this one, Matthew Vaughn and co make a big point of saying this is not a prequel. They're doing their own thing. This is their take on the X-Men universe that they can then go on and expand on and change and do what they want with. And I'm like, okay, so if I now think about it in that context,
that makes more sense.
Sure. If this was the first ever X-Men movie, I'm like, cool.
Because you've also got the Moira
awesome.
McTaggart
Like, you're
problem.
setting it in the past, and you can because Moira McTaggart in number 3 is like a scientist in her a doctor and a scientist in her 50s, in the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah.
And yet here she's a CIA agent in her 30s, like late 20s, early 30s,
and is American
in 1962, which means that McKellen's character in the originals is roughly, if you place them in the 2000s, is in his early 70s, which McKellen wasn't quite yet, but like, sure, fine. Okay, that's fine, because they don't ever make Magneto appear young in those ones. He is an older man.
Yeah.
Fine. And Xavier is implied to be about 10 years Eric's junior.
Or thereabouts. Or maybe
based on the timeline. Maybe, or based on the timeline, Eric is... in this movie in his early 30s, based on the timeline, which he has to be, because Michael Fassbender is a handsome man, but has always sort of looked like he's older than 35.
Yeah.
Like, has always looked older than 35.
Also, question, did the footage of him in
which would also make sense because it means Xavier's graduating in his late teens, early 20s, which makes sense
for a PhD, yeah, it makes sense. For early 20s would make sense for a PhD, like 25.
McAvoy, by the way, is a handsome fucker in this movie.
McAvoy. Yes,
love McAvoy.
Yes, charming and handsome and a dick. The character, not McAvoy. I don't know if James McAvoy is a dick. I don't think so. I've not heard.
I've never heard bad stories through the grapevine about him. He's always been a lovely fella.
Question.
Tell me what you think about this. Hit me.
The footage at the beginning with young Magneto at the is it Auschwitz or is it another concentration camp?
Yeah,
it's explicitly Auschwitz. Yeah. Is that restaged from the original film, or they reused some footage? Because the child actor's different, isn't it? But it's a very it feels like a very close restaging thereof. In which case, the idea of it being a prequel, the idea of it being a reboot kind of goes out the window.
Well, I think the idea is that's the point of diversion.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's almost like they're going, we're starting again. And they're using that as the springboard moment. But I know what you mean. The film was advertised as a prequel. Find out the origins of the X-Men. And in a world where no superhero franchise at that point had been rebooted. I mean, Batman, yes, but like the 1966 movie was a spin-off from the TV show. Like, you know, it's at this point. Actually, no, one superhero franchise had been two. Two had been rebooted in this time. Batman into the Nolan verse, and Hulk. We'd had Ang Lee's Hulk in 2003, and then the Incredible Hulk in 2008.
Yeah.
But even then, the 2008 Hulk makes loose allusions to the events of the 2003 one.
Very loose, but yeah.
Yeah, and was never explicitly called a reboot when it came out. It was just a new Hulk movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. It was never called a sequel, but they never made a point of saying it's a fresh start.
And they sidestepped the origin stuff, so...
Yeah, you see it in the credits, and the machine he sat in is vaguely similar to the one from the 2003 movie. So it's sort of like that loose, how are we playing this? The same way Batman Begins was still sort of... Like, you could, if you wanted, believe that happened before the first Burton movie, if you wanted. Like, obviously,
you'd have to do a lot of mental arithmetic.
But it doesn't
logic.
But it doesn't like massively contradict anything that comes later. The next film obviously does, because the next film's like, no, fuck it. This is Harvey Dent. That's the Joker. This is what this means. That's what this means. But this is the first time where like it's a. If they intended it this way, it's a shame they didn't make that clear, because the casting of Hugh Jackman in a very, very fucking funny throwaway cameo. Confirms that this is sort of confirms in your mind this is the same universe as what we've been in for the last 4 films. These characters look the way they do in the last 4 films. Like Mystique in this, it
follows the same design cues.
The other ones. Yeah. Nice cameo with Rebecca Romaine as well.
Yes.
I think that's quite funny. When she's transforming
the better Mystique.
In Eric's bed. Yeah, in Eric's bed, she transformed not like this. Because he's talking about, I'd be intimate with you, but not like this. So she transforms into an older woman, and it's Rebecca Romaine. It's like, that's a fun cameo. Yeah, that is genuinely a fun cameo.
The first thing it says is maybe in a few years.
Yeah, maybe in a few years, and she transforms into Rebecca Romaine. It's like, it's funny, because a few years ago, this was who was playing her. And also Rebecca Romaine. And then he's like, the real Raven. She transforms back into Jennifer Lawrence. And then he goes, the real Raven. She goes blue. And we get the most memed moment of this movie.
Perfection.
I think some of the origins of X-Men staples, characters, technology is buyable in this. Like, I like the idea of the X-Jet. The X-Jet was an off-the-books supersonic jet prototype that Hank McCoy created.
But it's clearly just an SR-71 Blackbird. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah. But after the base is destroyed, the man in black suit's base is destroyed, all this, that, and the other, and they're all off the record. Sure, that plane's unaccounted for. Fuck it, they take it and they go.
Sure.
Like, and then they've got it. Hank can run it because he created it. Cerebro is it doesn't contradict the thing that Xavier and Magneto created Cerebro together, because Hank creates it, Xavier develops it, and it's Xavier, Eric, Hank, and a little bit of
Monica in my life.
No, but like they develop it together, like the first use of it, and then they perfect it over the course of them finding more mutants.
Yeah.
So it's like, Sure, some of these things fall into place and it makes sense. But then there's weirder shit. The obvious one is the crippling of Charles at the end of this movie. Because in X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins, we have seen 1980s and 1990s Xavier walking
around,
played by Patrick Stewart.
Yeah. Good old P. Stew.
I think it was included. Now, again, if you think of this as a brand new continuity, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it ain't, because you keep telling us it isn't with other things in the movie.
Yeah, and I think that sort of ambiguity / what's the word? Ambivalence.
Yes.
To continuity is sort of, it's a real problem if you attempt to connect these movies together. Watch it in isolation. You can't invest in it as a franchise. You watch it in isolation, it's like, oh yeah, it's a pretty good movie. It's fine.
Magneto gets his helmet because Shaw developed a helmet to defend himself against telepaths. Great. Except in the first X-Men movie, Xavier references it's the first time Eric's ever used this thing and he thinks it might be blocking his powers.
Yeah, he doesn't know what it is. So it's really poorly thought out in that sense, and then it just continues.
We were friends for years
as the franchise.
We started the school together, and we were friends for years. Except we weren't. We were friends for maybe 9 months, and then I fucked off and became a terrorist.
Yeah. But then it doesn't again. Magneto goes back and forth.
Before we do a character rundown, any set pieces or anything that you really like? I love Azazel killing CIA agents by teleporting 50 feet above the base and then just dropping them and then getting higher and higher.
Yeah, it's a cool use of his powers.
The first time Banshee swoops in to save the day using his wings and his scream in the final set piece is very fucking cool.
Yeah, I just like Banshee in general in this movie, actually. I think because there's too many characters, he's underutilized, but
everyone is. They're
actually a pretty decent version of that character.
I hate how clever they think they're being, that the CIA guy, one of the two skeptical ones, is the dad of William Stryker.
Yeah, hate that.
It's like, why? That makes Stryker way younger than he is. Like, this is weird. This is really fucking weird. You're making the universe smaller. Like, why are you doing this?
Well, again, why make the female CIA agent
Moira McTaggart? Because they want her and Charles to do the naughty, which they don't do.
What do you call it? Lila, what's her name? Who's the actual X-Men's government liaison?
Yeah.
Or, just make up an original character, like...
Doesn't make sense.
Have her be like...
I like the showing of Shaw's powers. I think it's a really visually interesting way of doing it. Like, he absorbs and redistributes energy. Like, that's his power, but it's not necessarily kinetic. He channels it into different things, like one of which is containing other mutants' powers, like holding them for a moment. Yeah. One of them is de-aging, like he's able to extend his own life, which is why he was around as Dr. Schmidt in the 40s and
hasn't aged a day.
And, hasn't aged a day, but like his look changes with the times. They find a really nice... I think the design in this movie's nice. Like, I like the X-Flight suits that basically look like the ones from Grant Morrison's run on X-Men. It's the first time they have costumes where you're like, oh, that's like the comic! Yeah. That's good. They're a bit more flight suity, but they look like the comic.
Also takes more than a few cues from like 60s James Bond stuff.
Yes, I like that. The design
clearly
of Shaw.
Matthew Vaughn does, because he'd later go on to sort of revisit that with Kingsman.
Apparently his first choice for Shaw was Colin Firth.
Yes.
But it was a scheduling conflict.
And Bryan Cranston was going to do it at one point, but he decided to go and do Drive instead.
Oh, fair enough. So, that's good. Shaw's outfit and the way the Hellfire Club looks fucking great. Yep. Like, you're seeing the initial Hellfire Club in Vegas. You're like, okay, that's the aesthetic. Like, is two fucking henchmen, Azazel and Riptide. Like, their design is good. They look good.
Riptide's a deep fucking cut, which I appreciate.
Yeah, like, fair enough. If you're gonna have a mutant who you're not developing the character of, put in someone that the comic fans will go, oh shit, is that them?
Although, correct me if I'm wrong, he doesn't have any dialogue.
No dialogue. No doubt. It was also Alex Gonzalez's first English language movie. And he's a Spanish actor, and they wanted him. He usually plays good guys and Lotharios and handsome like leads in Spanish films.
Yeah.
So they kind of like he apparently relished the challenge. I can't find the quote, but like he talked about the fact that he liked the fact he was getting to play a baddie, but still sort of have that suave vibe because he's a fucking handsome guy. And he looks like. Yeah. Who's that dude stood nearby? What's he doing? Holy shit, he's creating a tornado. Yeah. Which, based on which scene it is, either looks really weird or looks quite good. Yeah. But, you know.
There's some
like Emma Frost design.
CGI in this movie,
yeah. Emma Frost's signature design makes sense based on her roles within the movie. We'll fucking get to her, though. And Shaw looks fantastic. Like, every outfit, Bacon wears it and looks amazing. Even when he puts on the stupid bastard Magneto helmet, you're like, sure.
Especially when he puts on the stupid bastard Magneto helmet.
Kevin Bacon's very distinct nose, the tip of his nose touching the spike of the helmet. It's just sort of like, it's like it was made for you.
I don't really like the way they visualize his powers.
I like that.
Like, why don't you like it? Going for sort of. I get that. I guess they're kind of going for like a vibration idea. Like he's absorbing the vibrations of the energy, but it just looks like he's splitting into multiple versions of himself. It just looks odd.
I liked it, but I think it's because I like the balls on him for just making it look so visually distinct.
Yeah, even though it's weird. I'll give him that. That's...
You don't forget it, and I think that's why it's why it wins, because it's just sort of like that's fucking strange. Yeah, I think it's because otherwise any other person might have just made it like they glow for a moment and then settle down. Yeah. Whereas they were like, no, fuck it. His arms are containing a grenade explosion, and you see all these like, I don't know. I quite like it. No, let's blow through the characters real quick.
Before we do, I gotta say, I think this movie has a real problem with the way it treats anyone who isn't white.
Yes. Oh well, there's one very distinct case of that, and we will get to it. Yeah.
It's like it's not cool.
No. But, so Glenn Morshower dips out of the Transformers franchise to basically play the same character as Colonel Hendry. Yeah, does a fine job.
All that sort of military CIA like characters. It's just all a bunch of interchangeable, crusty old white dudes who are like they're fine as actors, but I'm just not interested in any of them.
Raid Surbedzjar plays the Russian general who has fun in the Emma Frost scene in particular. Like he gets to
that's quite fun.
Kind of odd, which is fun. Alex Gonzalez as Riptide, fine, just a henchman,
but gets no dialogue. Well. Like he's just a Hispanic henchman.
Yeah, the problem begins now. Yeah, folks. Matt Craven as CIA Director McCone. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, again, it's just interchangeable.
It's pecan pie, mate. Don't worry about it. It's pecan pie. You'll have your lunch. It's fine.
Interchangeable, crusty white dude. White dude. That's
Zoe Kravitz. I forgot it was Zoe Kravitz as Angel Salvador.
Another
in one of her now many superhero roles.
Another non-white member of the First Class who immediately defects to Sebastian Shaw the first opportunity she's given. Neat powers, but
she's got butterfly wings that appear like tattoos when she's not using them, and she spits acidic fireballs.
And again, it's another deep cut from X-Men mythology. That angel is from Grant Morrison's New X-Men.
Yeah,
and is
also known as Tempest. Yeah,
and
is barely in it. But she's a cool foe, but it's just sort of a bit of a waste because you're like, I mean that's the biggest flaw. The biggest flaw with the First Class, because the First Class is, I guess, meant to be referring to the team that that attempt the operation on the beach at the end. Yeah, but they're not. They're the group that are gathered at the CIA base, who are then quickly dispatched or split up.
And it would be nice if the sort of the non-white sex worker would be shown to have some sort of moral fortitude and not just do the bad thing as soon as possible. Like it's just not a good look.
Like I buy her joining Eric at the end. I buy her joining Eric at the end, but don't join Shaw.
Yeah, just straight away. Like, before they even do anything else, just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to go do this because this is hard. And then
Caleb Landry Jones.
Weird, sweaty Caleb Landry Jones, who I really like.
Yeah, as Banshee. He released an album recently. Go look it up, folks.
Oh, okay.
He's Banshee. He nails it. He's quoted at the time saying he auditioned for it because I've got red hair and freckles. I'm not going to be Batman, Robin, or Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So he just was like, I mean, I look like Banshee. Fuck it, I'm going to audition for Banshee.
He does look weird though. Like, I don't know what Caleb Landry Jones' deal is, but he does just look slightly too moist at all times. Like, no matter what he's doing, he's just...
And he's always great. I mean, my favourite role of his still to this day is Get Out, because he's just
he's
really
great in that. Yeah, he's really
Get
good in
Out.
that. He's really good in that.
But he's great in this. He's having fun. His accent is shaky as fuck.
Oh, Matthew Vaughn actually turned around and said to everyone, "Don't bother with accents."
Right, you can tell that they obviously filmed.
Don't bother.
You can tell they obviously filmed some scenes before he said that to him, though.
Because like
in a couple of scenes, he's Irish.
He said to Rose Byrne, like, "Don't bother with the Scottish accent from McTaggart." And then James McAvoy's in the corner going, "Aw."
But I was ready to see. I was gonna like do some phonetics over lunch.
And then,
right, never mind.
Me and Rose were gonna go and do some more work privately. And then, not casting any aspersions. And then Michael Fassbender is just Michael Fassbender.
Well, we'll get to him. We'll fucking get to him. Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah.
Highlight of the film. Yeah. So
fucking
good.
Great.
Fucking great.
Really good.
Edie Gathigi as Darwin. He is
literally
wonderful.
Kill off the black guy first.
Yeah. Yeah, he's instantly compelling as well. That's what sucks.
And
he's instantly compelling.
Has an amazing power, which they then immediately just ignore. So he adapts to survive, and then but because somebody puts a bit of fire in him, he can't adapt to that and just dies. What?
Like, I mean, imagine if Darwin had been in the final set piece. Like, he would have been swimming through the water, stopping the missiles. Like, just.
But
also,
no,
it's
this team has to be white. This team has to all be white.
Aside from them committing the heinous black guy dies first trope,
me.
It's even worse for ED specifically because this was his second bite at the X-Men apple. He'd previously auditioned for Agent Zero in Origins.
Ugh.
They were auditioning him for Banshee in First Class, and then they cast him as Darwin. So that's creepy because that means he auditioned for Banshee. They were like, we don't want him for Banshee, but we do want him because he's great. Like, we've auditioned him twice for roles. Like, he's great. I know, let's cast him as the character we kill off first. That's suspect. That is really suspect. Yeah. It sucks. It fucking sucks.
I think
because he's instantly likable.
This production team might have some racial bias going on. I'm not saying they're racist.
Based on their other works? I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe someone unconscious.
Lucas Till.
Generously,
Lucas Till as Alex Summers.
Yeah, Havoc's fine and bland and fine and whatever. Like, yeah,
he's fine. Lucas Till gets more to work with in the next. What is he in the next one? He is, isn't he?
No.
Is he in Days of Future Past? No, he's in Apocalypse.
No, he's in Days of Future Past. Briefly.
He's in Days of Future Past. He gets more to work with in those. He plays the part well.
No, he's
the
not.
Continuity's already getting.
I don't think.
Yeah, because he gets killed in Apocalypse.
Oh.
He's at the mansion. He dies and the mansion explodes. Because Quicksilver saves everyone except he misses Alex because he doesn't know that he's in the mansion in Cerebro. Yeah. Like, he's fine. He's a good actor. He's Scott's younger brother normally. I guess he must be his older brother or distant cousin or something in this continuity now. But whatever. If you're thinking of the film as its own continuity, sure, because if they'd have carried on not trying to adhere to all the previous movies going forward, we could have found out that he has an older brother called Scott.
But visually...
Do you know what I mean? Like, they could have done that, but
visually you have the time where his energy power looks like Scott's eye beams.
And also, for some reason, sets fire to shit because the filmmakers have never understood Cyclops' power. Ever.
No, I think Havoc's power is like energy. So it's not just concussive force, it is he can burn shit.
Yeah, like, it's usually blue though as well.
Oh, it is usually blue, but that's what I mean. They deliberately do that to tie in visually with Cyclops' eye beams. So it's weird in that sense. And just again, it's fine. It's just like generic, not very interesting white dude. And when just killed off Darwin, so he could keep fucking Havoc around.
What do you think of blue dudes? Red dudes even, because Jason Fleming's Azazel.
I like Jason Fleming. He doesn't get much to do in this apart from look weird and plastic, but yeah.
Again, it's more a deep cut, and it's a shame because they absolutely, if they were going the prequel route, it's a shame they didn't develop him a little more, or at least imply that him and Mystique sort of had like a hey, just a moment. Because then you could leave it up to the viewer's imagination and they could be like, are they Nightcrawler's parents?
Yeah, but like, they're already busy setting up Mystique with at least 3 other male characters, so...
Oh, don't.
You don't want to do that, do you?
Nicholas Hoult, speaking of, as Beast. Nicholas Hoult is fine.
I like Nicholas Hoult, but I don't like him in any of the X-Men films.
I don't care for his Hank McCoy. I don't think he's a good
Beast. Yeah. I don't like his Hank McCoy. The Beast makeups are always terrible. They sort of try and do Cat Beast in this, which is my favourite Beast design, and it doesn't work. It's better than the later ones. It's the best of...
It would have been better had they got to his lab, and instead of it being trashing and being like, meet me at the air hangar, they get there and there's a fucking big blue cat creature in there screeching and tearing things apart, and they have to work together to subdue him, and they kind of like calm him down and bring him back, and he's like, oh my god, what have I done? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like because at least then you'd be like, okay, and it's that whole thing of like, the mutation will settle over time, like right now we need you, there's a fucking missile crisis about to happen. Do you know what I mean? You could, and then he's not the pilot or whatever, he's the man in the chair who like fills them in on what they're doing, and he needs to stand back. And then you've got, cool, we have the whole extremes, and he's learned his lesson about embracing his appearance. He shouldn't have to hide because of who he is, because now he can't, and whatever. It's mishandled. It should have been in a different film.
Except he can in the next one, but again, we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. Oh, and it was ADI who designed it. Oh, guys, come on. No.
It just doesn't work.
No.
It just does...
Cat Beast is great. Doesn't translate to live action.
No. Not like this, anyway.
If you want to talk about a fucking car crash of a character adaptation and performance, January Jones as Emma Frost.
Again, I like January Jones as a performer, but in this she just doesn't get that much to do. The character isn't particularly evocative of Emma Frost.
It's not Emma Frost. Matt. Is she a good actor?
She's very good in Mad Men.
Yeah, but a lot of actors are very good in Game of Thrones, and they're not in anything else. Is she a good actor?
I think
because this was, for the longest time, my only exposure to January Jones. And if I had to nominate the worst performance of 2011 off the top of my head from that year, it's her in this movie. She's bad, because it comes across as lazy, as well as, like, underdeveloped, as well as phoned in. It's just her entire
she's
technique.
In the Boat That Rocked. She's good in that.
Yeah, she's all right in that. But like in this, her entire technique is she talks looking at people and then tilts her head, and that's it. That's the entire performance of the character. Watch every scene she's in. At least once in each scene, she just tilts her head, and that's the extent of her performance. That is it. She's bad. She also... Here's some interesting bit of gossip for you, and this is not attached to the performance per se, but this sort of shows her work ethic, which is what makes me question whether or not she is a good actor or not, because actor is not just your performance, it's
Keeks
your work
also
ethic.
tells me that she's good in The Last Man on Earth as well, but I haven't seen that, so...
Fair enough.
We'll take Keeks' word for that.
She lied about doing prep for the show. They paid for... Because they were like, you're going to do some stunt work... implying that maybe earlier on Emma Frost maybe had a bit more physical of a role in the fight scenes. Because in this she doesn't really do fight scenes. It's more infiltration and spying and things like that. But the personal trainer was paid for. She cancelled all the sessions without letting the studio know. the excuse she gave was, Emma Frost has quite the bod, which is very intimidating. I'm a petite person. I didn't want to go into a strict workout and eating regime.
Wow.
You're cast in the role, and the studio go, right, part of this means we need to make sure for insurance reasons you are fit as balls, because you're going to have to put up with these things. Here's what's happening. This person's going to work with you Monday through Wednesday. We're going to pay... Because this is what happens, folks, when you have to change your body in a big budget film for any reason, like bulk up on muscle mass or for insurance reasons, prove a level of fitness for stunts or whatever it needs to be, the studio pay for it. They pay for a personal trainer. They pay for equipment. Your technique is you'd rather do it in your own home? Right. We'll buy you the little gym that will then be in your home for the duration of this production. Like, that is how it works. They pay for your food bills. They cover you because you are transforming for them to play a role in their movie. So they pay for it. All this stuff was paid for, and she cancelled it all and didn't tell them. Because she was like, I don't want to do that. Which is probably why she doesn't have any big action set pieces in the movie. But she's still in the movie. Why wouldn't they have fired her then? Because that's ridiculous. She's wasted money for them. Well, not just because Mad Men was big at the time, and it's a get to have January Jones in your movie, but there are so many rumours back from 2011, if you go looking up for those articles, that she and Matthew Vaughn were having an affair. Now, that's all hearsay and speculation, but when someone asked her about, are you coming back to do Days of Future Past when the production was announced on that, she said, no, they won't be calling me. Which imply, and Emma Frost is one of the many mutants from this film that they just, in a line of dialogue, go, oh yeah, they died. They were killed.
Yeah.
She also became pregnant during the production of this movie.
Okay.
So it could be that the reason, I got a sniff of this, like when I was doing my research after watching it the other day, and I was like, what the? And I dived through and I read so much shit from 2011, 2012, and I was like, I mean, this is all speculative. It could be nonsense. We could be just projecting rumor and this, that, and the other on her. But it's interesting because as an actor, like I look at the amount of effort she puts into this. I look at the lack of effort and the lack of communication with the studio when it came to the prep for this movie. I think about the amount of money she was paid, so the amount of disrespect she's showing to the production process by like going, yeah, no, fuck that. No, I don't want to do that. No, I can't be asked. Oh, I'm just going to phone this performance in. I look at all those things and I think, why were you kept on the job, regardless of your profile? She wasn't one of the poster names. She was in the publicity, but it wasn't like, and January Jones as Emma Frost. Like, it was
she's on the poster.
She's on
next
the poster
to McAvoy.
Yeah, but it's not like they sold it on her. She was part of that ensemble sale. So they don't need you. They don't need you to sell this movie. You're just one extra incentive in terms of the marketing side. Why would you be kept on? Well, maybe she was very friendly with someone who could make that decision, and maybe they were very close, and maybe something happened that they didn't plan for that would have given away the fact they were very close. Ooh. And maybe that's why they don't work together after this. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know. I fell down the drama hole in search of answers as to why she's terrible in this, but still in it. Speaking of terrible in their role, but I wouldn't say in this. This is definitely the best performance from this person in the role, but it gets worse so much quicker. Jennifer Lawrence as Raven Darkholme, aka Mystique.
The main problems with Mystique's part in this are not because of Jennifer Lawrence's performance. I think she's fine in this. It's the makeup looks worse than it did in any of the other original 3 X-Men movies. Inexplicably.
Like it doesn't look bad, but you're comparing it to 3 previous films where it looked better. And it's just questionable. And we know why now, because it got out over the course of the sequels to this, why the makeup looks worse. It's because during the production of this, she kicked up a stink about the amount of time she was spending in the makeup chair.
Well, also apparently they give her blisters as well.
Yeah,
so
that's
she had a bad
thing.
reaction to the makeup.
She had a bad reaction, so they reduced the amount of makeup instead of like finding, I guess, alternatives. they reduced the amount of makeup. But then again, I can imagine why they didn't do that, now knowing what you've told me, that it was a 13-month production cycle from inception to release.
Yeah.
So they probably didn't have the time to find alternatives, which means that they reduced the amount of prosthesis used over the course of the movie for each additional makeup scene, which explains why it looks way less impressive in this than it did in the Rebecca Romijn appearances. And as later films go on, they purposely work around it on Jennifer Lawrence's behalf, because by the next movie, it's partially a costume with some makeup application. So that's by Days of Future Past. By Apocalypse, it's a neck to toe costume with just makeup applied to the head. And for Dark Phoenix, minor spoilers for Dark Phoenix, it's makeup for a few scenes, and in a couple, because she's not in the movie a lot at all, in a couple of others, it's motion captured, it's digitally applied to her face. So Jennifer Lawrence was like, I want your money, but I don't want to go through this. Now, if it was a bad allergic reaction, fair enough, but like, find another way around it. Don't let the design deteriorate so obviously because your actor doesn't want to wear the thing that they're being paid millions of dollars for. It's an odd one. I sympathise with bad reactions to makeup, but like, find an alternative route.
I don't know.
Upping the pay of that performer if they're not there to do what you're asking them to do.
They wanted the box office return,
Hunger Games money.
Yeah, that's what
they wanted. That Hunger Games dollar.
Yeah, which
she's fine in this though. She's fine in this. She's adorable in this.
But like, the makeup looks bad, and the script isn't great. Her part in the script isn't great. So,
I mean, Mystique is in terms of actually propelling the plot, she has no function. Like, in terms of the propelling of the actions of the film, the only time she ever does anything is where at the end she tricks the team and the bad guys into thinking she's sure for a moment, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's odd. It's really freaking odd.
Yeah.
Although there's something really adorable about her being in a mood, brushing her teeth in a robe. Like, seeing Mystique in a fluffy bathrobe, brushing her teeth and being a little bratty is weirdly adorable.
Yeah, I suppose.
So at the beginning, and she's like, just cuddles up to Charles, and she's like, I'm sleepy, read me something. And he's like, I'm reading a thing on mutation or whatever. She's like, I know, but that'll make me fall asleep. Read it to me. She's just like, she comes across very little sister in the first half of the movie in a way that is really endearing and really sweet. But she's just there because they want Mystique to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So they can go, hey, you like that character, right? Here she is again.
Yeah.
Rose Byrne, she does a goddamn admirable job as Moira McTaggart.
But again, doesn't really get that much to do. Like, she runs around in her underwear first for a little bit, for no particular reason, gets pushed aside by all the men, and then believes Charles, and then sort of just disappears for a little bit, and then comes back at the end to be in a flight suit, and then disappears again.
Yeah.
It's like, she just doesn't... She might as well not be there. Like, you could cut half the characters from this film and have a tighter, leaner, and more interesting narrative. And unfortunately, as much as I like Rose Byrne, you could do that with Moira, and the film wouldn't really suffer from it. It's just... Yeah, it's no good.
Yeah. I mean, she plays off nicely against James McAvoy as Charles Xavier.
Yes, who's great.
Very good in this, and I adore him in most things, and he's brilliant. And in this, he's very good because, like we said, he's handling a character who's revealed to be a bigger dick than we believe them to be.
Yeah.
But, like, his morality does drive what he does as the story goes on, and you can feel the pain and loss of losing his surrogate sister and losing his new best friend, his new kid, this kindred spirit he's met. He's like, oh my god, we were destined to meet. Like, because they do a good job of like truncating the Xavier and Eric Lensher relationship in a way where you're like, if this is how it is in this continuity now, sure, I buy it.
Yeah,
it's just a shame that it contradicts the other films which you in your next movie are going to confirm are part of the same continuity, but I'm not.
I absolutely think that the strongest part of this film is that relationship. And if it had been more focused on that directly, I think we would have had a more interesting film.
Because for me, the best thing...
The fact that we didn't is the film's biggest problem. Right.
Because the best part about it, aside from their developing relationship, is Fassbender as Lencher. That story arc in the first 2/3 of the movie. His accent is shaky as fuck.
It's all over the place.
He's sometimes British, he's sometimes Irish, he's sometimes American.
Yeah, but again, I as I say, Matthew Vaughn just turned around to people and just said, "Hey, I don't bother with accents." So
yeah.
I don't know. I've soured on Matthew Vaughn as a director significantly since we've started this podcast. And
weird,
examined some of his work closer.
It's an odd one. I like Vaughn as a director, as a storyteller, is where I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Especially when you realise it, because his constant collaborator is Jane Goldman, who is very talented, but she sort of has fallbacks and tropes that are more apparent when she works with Vaughn. Kick-Ass, this movie, The First Kingsman are all... You could package those three movies together in a box set, and you'd be like, oh yeah, they were made by the same people. Like, you could feel it in the DNA of them. This is the most approachable of the three. Yeah. To a wider audience, but they're clearly made by... The DNA is the same, which means that all the same flaws carry across into them. Don't even get us started on the sequels. But the strongest thing in this probably wasn't even theirs. It probably was, despite, like you were saying, what the studio say was the case. The strongest fucking scene in this movie absolutely existed prior to this script being put together. And it's the scene in, is it in Holland, where Magneto is on the Trail of Shore, and he goes to this place, and he gets a beer, and he orders a German beer, and the two Germans who are there are like, oh yes, it's a Bitburger, it's the best. And he's
it's Argentina, I think it is. It's supposed to be Argentina.
There it is.
Yeah.
And he's like, so what brings you so far from Germany? And they're like, I was the first one says, I'm a pig farmer. And he's like, ha 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 ha. And basically there's these smug older fuckers who you're like,
yeah,
they're former Nazis. They're Nazis. They're freaking retired Nazis who are on the lam who've escaped any justice. The other guy's like, I'm a tailor. My parents were and stuff. Like, where are you originally from? I'm from Dusseldorf. And it's that brilliant moment where he just goes like, oh, Dusseldorf. And my parents are from Dusseldorf. So I'm from Dusseldorf. And he's like, oh, right. What were their names? Maybe we knew them. And he says, and he's just sitting down, just happy as you like, while the score is working its best. The score for this is great. Yeah. The score for this movie is fantastic.
Again, the recurring themes. Anytime that he's on screen, it is, yeah.
Well,
anytime that Magneto's on.
Magneto's is those harsh, like, those escalating, like, really harsh notes. And Xavier's is that lighter, like, da, 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 da. And then by the end of the movie, it's the same dun, 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 with the different levels of it. It's like, oh, they've merged. This is great. And it's in this moment when the score's just getting tenser and tenser, and he's just smiling, and he's like, oh, they didn't have names. Their names were taken from them by pig farmers and tailors. And he's just clinking the glasses, and you're like, oh shit. And then he just casually turns his wrist over to reveal his fucking tattoo from the concentration camp. They both panic, and Magneto, like a fucking badass, teaches Nazis a fucking lesson, and it's wonderful.
This is after a scene where he's pulled corrupt banker's fillings out.
Yes, which could have been way more violent, but I kind of like the fact that he lets him live, because he's like, no, he's going to be terrified that I'm coming back for him for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
like that's enough for me. Like,
but that scene in the pub thing of like, is just it's so good.
Like, was it Blood and Honor? Let's see which you draw first, or whatever it is. And it's like, oh my god, it's brilliant, and I love the thing. I love the execution of Shaw. I love it.
Oh yeah,
because it's just the mirroring of the coin that Shaw gets him to move as a child to prove he has his powers, and he kills his mum because he realizes. I like that idea that the Magneto's powers are locked in by emotion. Like, he has them.
It's something that
he needs a fueling drive, and he believes it's his hatred.
Yeah.
And his fear and anger. And by the end of the movie, like, Xavier sort of convinced him, no, it's about belief. Like, you really need to have a handle on your emotions. It's about, like, pride. It's about honor. It's about love.
You
need to push.
You need to
and
find
by the
the
end,
place between anger and serenity, which,
Yeah.
as Keek said, is just any emotion.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just
the
any
default.
emotion. You just got to find an emotion.
Eric, you need to find the default, the default setting. Basically, what you're saying is Magneto, somewhere on his body, has a end of a ballpoint pen-shaped hole, and someone just needs to poke the pen in it, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And then by the end of the movie, he's like, no, my hatred fuels it. That scene's great. He's great. The fact the coin that started all this is the thing he drives through Shaw's skull slowly and kills him. Because by this point, they've established that Shaw's basically indestructible.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but if we paralyze him for a second, and then I slice through his brain, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have killed him.
Yeah, slowly.
I'm going to take his helmet. I'm going to repaint it. I'm going to look like 60s Magneto in the final shot of the movie. And then we'll never see this look again for some reason.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because he looks
because
really
it was
good.
too beautiful for this world, Christopher.
He's even got the little pointy crown.
It's too beautiful for this world.
Also, when you're watching this movie, folks, if you have to revisit it, take a shot when you see Tony Curran.
Yeah.
Tony Curran just plays one of the CIA agents who gets killed by Shaw.
Where there is Jason Fleming, you will also find Tony Curran.
True.
It's just a fact of life.
Isn't it interesting? He must have been thrown so hard that he went through the ceiling, because Shaw throws him in the air and he never drops back down. It's really weird. It's like, where is he?
Stuck there.
He gets thrown up and he falls through time, and he lands in the past of Asgard and eventually becomes Bor.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah.
Good old Granddaddy Bor.
Yeah. Who then retires and becomes a painter called Vincent van Gogh. Anyway.
No more cannon welding, please.
You might be
and
thinking...
then the Doctor meets Sherlock and they're best mates.
Okay, let's stop. You might all be thinking,
and then
hang on.
Kiss.
You might all be thinking, hang on, there's only like 20 minutes left on this podcast. Are they not going to go in depth on the next film? Ladies and gentlemen, there isn't much to fucking talk about when it comes to the Wolverine.
Here's the thing. I don't hate the Wolverine.
Neither do I. I think the first 2/3 are a fantastic action movie.
Because there's really not much to hate. It's like
there's not much in it.
There's like a minimal plot, a bunch of action set pieces which are pretty good. Although I was watching the version on Disney Plus, so it was the theatrical cut, not the unrated cut, which restores a lot of the violence.
Right. Okay. So mine was a bit bloodier.
Yeah. The version on Disney Plus, which was the original theatrical cut, is essentially bloodless.
Oh.
Like, it's weirdly bloodless.
There's definitely blood in it. It's nowhere near as much as there could be, considering the injuries being done.
No, there's blood in it. There's things like, the dream sequence where
it's a 12.
he wakes.
It's a 12, so...
It's where he wakes. You still get the opening where he's had sort of his skin burned off a bit. In the nuclear, then you get the dream sequence where he looks down and he stabs Jean and she's bleeding, and you get stuff like that. But it's things like you don't get blood spraying everywhere when he's cutting people up. And I don't know if what it's like. Are there any limb removals in the unrated version?
If they are, they're quick and
because they're
quick and out of focus. Because
there are none.
It's
in
a 12.
This one. Yeah.
It's a 12.
There is an unrated cut.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah, there is a straight up unrated cut. I watched the version that's on Disney Plus, which is the theatrical cut, which is a 12, and it's just weirdly bloodless. Like not completely bloodless, but like
it's violent.
Yeah,
it's violent, but it's not gory.
But he's stabbing people left, right, and centre, and slashing at people, and there's basically no blood.
Yeah, it's like a Power Rangers fight.
Yeah,
like they've got swords, but no one's bleeding or being cut. They're just being hit by swords.
Yeah, it's just odd.
Yeah,
but
let's knock off the good for this one.
Yeah,
quickly. I like the fact that it is pretty much an entirely, bar a couple of characters, Japanese cast.
Yes,
I love that, and it's a mixture of seasoned actors who are big in Japan, newcomers. So basically, this film, James Mangold directs it, and it's a good-looking movie. Like,
and,
he does a much better job in Logan. He does a way better job in Logan with visual language, but in this one, there's some great visual language, and the mise-en-scène of certain bits are phenomenal with the sound design and everything merging together. Like, the bullet train sequence is wonderfully stupid, and it knows it is, and it's having a ball with it.
And say what you will about this film's sort of blandness, but it's clear that James Mangold is more interested in making a Wolverine movie than any of the other directors who've worked on the franchise have been interested in making X-Men movies.
And X-Men movies, yeah.
For him to then go on and make Logan makes so much more sense when you're watching this and you're going, I bet a lot of the things that are bad about this are things that the studio made him do.
Yeah.
Like the Silver Samurai robot.
Right, the Silver Samurai shit.
Yeah. It's like, what?
For those who don't know, like, Wolverine has a whole fandom separate from the X-Men.
Yeah.
Because he's had solo books up the wazoo for years. And, like, his rogues gallery, while not touching anywhere near the heights of, say, a Spider-Man or a Batman, like, they're significant. Like, there's some pretty interesting characters. Some shite and dated, which makes them kind of fun, like Cyber, for example. Razor Fist. Then you've got ones that are more sort of the Machiavellian people, like your what's the name of the Weapon X guy who crops up again and again, the actual scientist, Dr. Is it Cornelius?
I think it's no,
something like that, isn't it?
Might be. I can't remember.
Could be. I don't know. And then you have your recurring, obviously, like toughs and heavies, like Juggernaut plays a big role in his stuff, and Sabretooth, of course, like. But the Silver Samurai is one of his like most distinct foes.
Well, Silver Samurai pops up in X-Men before he pops up in Wolverine.
Yeah.
Solo stuff.
He's an X-Men baddie, but
if I remember correctly, he pops up
the
in
Miller
the...
and...
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, there's the Miller Claremont Wolverine in Japan miniseries, which this takes a lot of cues from, including the opening with the wounded bear. Like, that's...
It's kind of after that miniseries, though, like, Samurai gets more wrapped in Wolverine's
because
kind of thing.
Out of that miniseries is the X-Men go to Japan for Logan and Mariko's wedding.
Yeah.
And that's where you meet Silver Samurai. They meet Silver Samurai for the first time. I'm not sure if that's his first appearance, but that's where... Could be. That's where he turns up with the X-Men. That's where he sort of comes from in that mythology.
Yeah.
So, yeah...
But he's a very... He embodies... whenever that character returns, he embodies that era of Logan's story, which is so unique to him. Like, you know, that Miller Claremont series is great because Frank Miller illustrated it, didn't he? And Chris Claremont wrote it, and he wanted Frank to work on it, and Frank wasn't interested in doing it. He was like, I don't really, I'm just not feeling. And then they'd had this idea about like, well, the story's set in Japan, and the more they talked about it, the more Frank Miller went, okay, that's different. I've not done that yet. And it leads on, eventually, like, he perfects that stuff really well when it comes to sort of the assassins and the ninja aspects, because, like, you look at his work with the hand on Daredevil and it's like, yeah, you're good. Like, you are good at this. Don't go crazy in the 2000s. Oh, wait. And it just, it's a beloved part of Wolverine's mythology, and even if people have never read it, they're aware that Wolverine had a period where he was in Japan, and that was part of his story.
I absolutely adore the Claremont Miller Wolverine miniseries. It is...
Yeah.
It's one of those things, if you like X-Men or Wolverine at all, you must at least read it, if not own it. It's so good. And so pivotal for that character as well, because he'd become an increasingly popular character in X-Men. And then that was when you really got to spend some time in his head with his internal monologue. And I think I think they were right to take as many cues from that for this as they did. The problem being is that they muddied up those cues with things like the Silver Samurai robot, with things like Viper, with things like let's take away his healing factor because reasons. And it's like it's sort of a... It could be a really straightforward plot, but they convolute it to the point where you just don't really care about anything. It's like, okay, so they want his healing factor, and they're gonna take it with this but they you can't give it voluntarily. And then I guess they've got this robot that they built, which has drills in its hand that are exactly spaced to fit into the bone part of his claws, because it can cut his claws off with its heated adamantium. And what?
But it's also just that thing of like, it's also just that thing of Yoshida is, so the film opens brilliantly.
Oh yeah,
it opens with the bomb at Hiroshima and
Nagasaki.
It's Nagasaki. Sorry,
Nagasaki.
It's phenomenal. Like, it's a beautifully done sequence. It's terrifying, and it's about Logan was clearly a prisoner, and it sort of ties in because this is a sequel to X-Men Origins. Like, it's considered part of a trilogy.
Well, it's also a sequel to X-Men 3.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it carries on the narrative.
Yeah.
It's the first film to carry on the narrative of X-Men 3 since X-Men 3. And in it, like, it's clearly sort of set during that montage at the opening of X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yes,
at some point he's become a prisoner of war in this camp, and Nagasaki happens, and this soldier, the Yoshida, like, Logan basically saves his life. Like, he keeps him covered during the explosion and saves his life. And Yoshida goes on to become like a tech mogul and a communications entrepreneur and a philanthropist and working in medical sciences and helping develop medical science. And it's like, his life was saved. He took his second chance at life and became something that helped develop and recover his country and that area. And he's also sort of a mix of tradition. Like, he believes that you should always have one foot in the past. You should have your one foot in the past and both eyes on the future. And it's like, that's a great idea. Like, learn from the mistakes of the past, uphold traditions, whilst also changing with the times when it's right, and looking to, that's the next goal. It's great. So the fact that he's the villain is meant to sort of be a twist. But really, it just makes me go, no, I don't fucking get it. Why is he the villain?
Yeah.
Why is he the baddie?
Yeah.
I don't understand why he's the baddie. It doesn't make sense. Like, he wants to keep living. So, Logan, give me... let us experiment on you so I can get your healing factor and continue to live. He obviously anticipates that Logan isn't going to do that, because he fakes his death that night after they've got Logan to Japan. After Viper has snogged Logan in his sleep and put a nanite thing in him.
Like, really weird.
That stops his healing factor, because they want to stop his healing factor because they then want to attack him and get his DNA so they can create the thing. But also because they know he might be a challenge, they create a silver samurai made out of adamantium, or at least like its blade is made out of adamantium, which they then superheat and cut the ends of his claws off so they can get his bone marrow. Because that's none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. And the fact that the Silver Samurai is just a mech suit for an old man to sit in is so disappointing.
Especially when Harada, who is the Silver Samurai, is in this.
Yeah.
As just some like weird sort of Hawkeye stand-in.
Yes. Oh, Jesus. Just... Mariko is... fine. Like, it's a bit of the whole like falling in love with the savior thing. In this, it sort of feels a bit like it only happens because it's a movie trope.
She feels too young.
Yeah, and it's
if
not
she was
the fault
older,
of, it's not the fault of Tao Akamoto. Like, this was one of her first movies, and she's very good. But like you said, this movie establishes Wolverine's old as balls, and here she is with someone who looks about 15. And it's like, what is happening?
It doesn't sit right with me because she felt too young.
Another fairly newcomer at this point is where's the character? Rila Fukushima, who is Yukio.
Yukio's great in this, yeah.
Yukio is great, and this is her first movie.
Oh wow!
This is her first movie. She's a singer. She's a pop star. This is her first film. After this, she goes on to be in several other movies in Japan and in the States, but she's mostly known for like a pop star and modelling work. She's great aesthetically. Her function in the plot, the fact that she's essentially she's essentially been used by Yoshida as well to put this plot forward. Like she didn't want to be a part of it, so she helps out at the end. She's like, yeah, this is bullshit. Like, this shouldn't have happened. She plays it well. Where is she? Svetlana Kodchenkova as Dr. Green / Viper.
Fucking get rid. Not the actress is fine.
It's weird. It's weird because she's not Viper.
Yeah.
Viper is Madam Hydra.
Yeah.
who is the head of a Hydra soldier sect. In this, they use her name and a version of one of her costumes, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Like,
and
she's she's a reptile mutant who deals in toxins and can shed her skin. Like, if she gets fatally injured, she can peel her skin off and somehow not be fatally injured anymore.
Whatever, mate. Whatever.
I don't think Svetlana's performance is what makes the character feel so fucking stupid.
No, I think she's doing the sort of smug, sinister villain thing quite well.
But she's quite possibly the most forgetful supervillain in modern comic book movies.
She's just not that interesting.
Like, if you said to somebody, like, if you named every superhero movie that's come out since 2000 to someone who loves the medium,
yeah,
I think this is the film they'd get up to after going like, yeah, fucking absorb him, man. Yeah, fuck it, keep going. Let's do this. Come on, let's name every single thing. Oh my god, yeah, stick. Fucking let's go. Come on, I've got this. I can't remember it. What, Silver Samurai? I guess. Maybe. They wouldn't remember Viper because it's just pointless. Famke Janssen's nice as Jean Grey, but having done this marathon, it doesn't sit right with me because I'm like, their relationship was never that deep.
No, it never.
He comes on to her a couple times, then the third movie treats it like they're star-crossed lovers, and then this movie continues with that idea, and I'm like, no. Like, he perved on her. She was a bit, well, maybe. I mean, he's kind of handsome, this guy. And then that's it. That's their That was their love life. That was it.
That was it.
So I don't buy. I like the idea of him killing Jean. He sort of takes it as like, I'm an animal. Like, this is where it ties into X-Men Origins. He's like, no, I've always been an animal, despite the fact that he doesn't remember that battle with himself because it was before his memory was erased. But whatever. Like, it, you know. And I think the idea of her in dreams tormenting him is kind of great. But as a lover, makes no sense. As a friend, sure. What was I going to talk about? There's a couple of other things I wanted to mention before we wrapped up on this one. I love the opening, the bear stuff, the bar and everything. And
that is taken from the Claremont Miller stuff, and he's very well done. I think
it's the most Wolverine he's been since maybe X2 in terms of acting like Wolverine as the character. I mean, not so much Jackman, because that's the thing. Yeah. Jackman's always entertaining in every one of these movies.
Yeah, he's just got charisma. Like, you can't. Yeah. Even when he's in bad movies, you can't really take his charisma away from him. There's a lot of actors like that, and he's a good example of it.
Yeah, he's a you know, he's a Dwayne Johnson. He's a Gina Davis. He's like one of those people who just like, if the film's shite, stupid, pointless throwaway, you still go, they were good. I really like them in that. They were nice. You know, and you know, Jamie Lee Curtis is another actor who like absolutely hits that. Whatever she's in, she was fucking great. And Jackman's like that. But he's the most Wolverine in that moment where he's like, he stabs the poison tipped arrow into the hunter's hand. And he's like, ask me where I got it. Ask me where I got it. And then he starts pouring like the alcohol on it. And the guy screams. He goes, where'd you get it? And he goes, funny you should ask. And it's just like, it's just that complete sort of, I've got you banged to fucking rights. I could pop a claw in you, but I'm not gonna. I'm just going to sit here and torment you for killing a defenseless animal, you prick. And it's just, you know, that stuff's great. And I kind of wish he'd been scruffy and beardy for the whole movie.
Yeah, I like that look for him.
Weirdly. I wish he'd, like, the most that they tidied him up is they maybe got him to do his hair in one of those buns at the top. Yeah. And that's kind of the extent of him being tidied up. Maybe the beard was trimmed. But the fact they do him up and they make him look like he does in the X-Men franchise is weird, because it's like, why would they scrub him up and just make him look like he does in the X-Men movies? No one looks like this.
No, if they'd have
He reminded me of the Beast, the bit where the Beast's in the tub in Beauty and the Beast when they're scrubbing him. That's the live action Beauty and the Beast remake, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, that is a fun scene. That is a fun scene. I do quite like it. Just like, but yeah, and like the first early on, the movie's like, oh yeah, I can see where this is going, and then it just gets lost in all these convoluted superhero plots. When it, you know, if you wanted to adapt the Wolverine in Japan Claremont Miller stuff, there's so much there about like honor and the animal versus the human, which is wonderful thematics for Wolverine, which should also be a vessel for like dealing with the guilt of killing Jean and all that kind of stuff. But they're not interested in doing that. They're interested in making a superhero action movie with a big robot and just that's kind of where it loses its way. But like for the first half of it, it's just a really decent like solid action flick. And
if you all stop watching at the bullet train sequence, if you finish at the bullet train sequence, and then say in your head, and then he saved Mariko, and everything's great,
and then after that, it's just
then it's a better movie for it.
But and like the weakening of the healing factor is an interesting idea.
But scientifically makes no sense because the last Wolverine film established that his healing factor is the only thing that makes him survive the adamantium process. So taking away his healing factor would slowly kill him because he's got metal in his body that would poison his blood, which the comics have touched on.
They don't take it away. They suppress it.
Oh, so it is still there, but it's working. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That makes sense. It's working overtime because it's trying to keep him alive from all the metal in his fucking body.
And of course, that's been the case for a while. As of Logan, obviously, it gets back to normal in this film, but then obviously at some point it starts to weaken.
At the older he gets,
at some point as he gets older, and then that's when it starts killing him. And also, and
this film's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's the most forgettable film in the franchise.
Yeah, like there's nothing.
But not because it's the worst. It's just fine.
It's not a train wreck like Origins Wolverine is, and there is some good stuff in like the first half of it, but it just ceases to be interesting.
Yeah, despite the fact that it also does something that the other films don't dare do, which is have an incredibly unique, natural, real-world setting.
Yeah.
And something which films should do, which is it's a star maker. It doesn't cast a bunch of big-name American actors in these roles. It casts Japanese actors in these roles, including some relative unknowns, because it's like, let's make stars. Let's make stars out of this. Let's do it.
But I also think the best thing to happen with coming out of this is for James Mangold and Hugh Jackman to go, all right, well, we sort of had a go at making a character-led, like, smaller scale Wolverine movie, but we didn't quite get the chance to do it, but I think we can convince the studio to go for it again, and then they got to go make Logan.
Yeah. So this film ran so Logan could fucking sprint.
Yeah, and I think that, for all the stick that this movie gets for being forgettable, I think when he's not having to deal with all the weird, like I say, giant robot, Viper Lady, genetic stealing bullshit, I think Mangold's got some interesting directorial chops in this. And actually has a bit of style about it.
There is something very cool about his claws being cut off, and then at the end it is sort of badass that he sort of like forcibly grows back the bone and then stabs him. It's like, okay. So, naturally, if you cut Wolverine's arm off, like, somehow, but you can't because of the adamantium skeleton, but if it didn't have the skeleton, you cut his arm off, it would grow back eventually. So here he is literally going, ah! And bone grows back, and then he stabs him. I know they never explain it in the movies, but we can assume, based on what we know, that Magneto probably helped him get the metal back over his claws.
That makes perfect sense, like, because it's only his claws.
But here's the thing as well. Famke Janssen isn't the only person to reprise their role from the earlier movies. Lynn Collins briefly reprises the role of Silver Fox in archive audio mixed into the Dream stuff.
Oh.
To the point where she gets a credit.
Okay.
Because, like, it's her voice. So they could have just used anyone as a stand-in. They could have used someone at the sound studio and just gone like, Jennifer, do you want to just record some lines saying Logan in a voice or whatever? And no, they went, fuck it, we'll use archive audio. But also Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen in the mid-credits scene.
Yes. Patrick Stewart, the fastest wheelchair in the West.
Yeah, oh Jesus. I also like the idea that Logan can apparently, in approximate 2013 or later, because it's X-Men continuity, can apparently at an airport be like, pat down, please, and they don't send him through the metal detector and they give him a pat down. It's like, what? I'm sorry, what? That makes no sense.
They've addressed it in the comics.
Up security and go, actually, guys, I don't want to take my shoes off, and I'd rather step around the thing, and them go, yeah, sure, fella, that can happen.
I think they addressed it in the comics a few times. It'd be like, he has a medical exemption card because he has like, oh yeah, I've got.
They do it in this film when they're scanning him for weapons, and he goes, prosthetic hip or whatever. It's like, that's quite funny. It's a cool little teaser because it does make you go, what? Especially because you see whatever it is on the TV at the end.
It's Trask Industries advert.
You sort of Trask Industries, and
or Trask whatever it is.
Yeah, and we knew at this point publicly that there was another X-Men film coming the year after.
Yeah.
Featuring the older cast returning. So at the time of release, this mid-credit scene was kind of interesting because it was like, we're getting a hint as to the beginnings of the next film. Of course, the next film jumps way fucking ahead of time from this moment and fills in no gaps, which we'll get to next time. Because, so the next time we have a special, we'll be touching on X-Men Days of Future Past, which is going to be interesting because my memories of watching that were, it's pretty cool. And since thinking about it, I'm like, is it though? So I'm looking forward weirdly to watching
cut,
it.
And then I watched the Rogue cut, and I think I liked it less after having watched the Rogue cut.
Do you own the Rogue cut?
Not anymore.
Okay. I was going to say, was it a victim of the flames?
Casualty. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe for the best.
Like, it's not on Disney Plus.
It's the theatrical cut. I was going to say, if you had the Rogue cut, it would have been interesting. But you've had that perspective, so you'll remember some differences. So we'll talk about that.
Also, First Class isn't on Disney Plus.
It's not, no. How did you get it? Did you have to rent it on Amazon?
No, it's on Now TV.
Well, I'm upset because Days of Future Past is next. Then Deadpool, which, spoiler alert for our next X-Men special, I fucking love that movie. I'll happily talk about it. And then it's X-Men Apocalypse, which we saw and reviewed since, or at least talked about since our podcast started.
Yeah, because I didn't see it. I skipped it at the cinema.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this.
It's the first one that I skipped.
I not only fucking hate it, it's not on Plus or Netflix or Prime, which means I have to rent at the very least X-Men Apocalypse to talk about it. And I hope you're all enjoying these episodes, guys. To make it worth my while, do us a favour and support the show on patreon.com/bigdamncast. Throw some shekels to make up for the pain I'm having to have of parting in a year where my career has taken a massive blow because of a pandemic. At least make it worth my while by supporting our show. You can also, of course, support us in other ways by telling people about the show, joining us on YouTube, Big Damn Channel, for our content, emailing in bigdamcontact@gmail.com, and following us on Twitter @BigDamnCast. We're also Big Damn Stream.
That's right.
We're also in your mind. We're also the next stage of human evolution, and you better frickin' accept it.
We are the future, Charles.
Not them. They no longer matter. We love you all to bits. Don't watch the 2 Wolverine films. Watch First Class if you're feeling nasty. We love you. Bye. Say bye, Matt. Say bye.
Bye,
say
Matt.
bye, boy.
Bye, boy.
Bye. Bye, good.